Hello, everyone. Welcome to Frame Trap. It has been a long time. Thank you for your patience while I was in Iowa attending a funeral and going through all that stuff. So I'm sorry. I really do hate delaying Frame Trap. So you guys giving us a little bit of extra time, super appreciate it. We have a lot of games to talk about today, which I'm very excited about. And to talk about those games, we have Daniel Bloodworth at the end. Bradley Ellis.
Frame Trap!
Brad, you have kind of like this... Sometimes you give like the camera like this naughty boy look, and I want you to know, I love it. Like every time I see it, I'm like, what? There's that spark.
Just
What's
a
going
smirk
through his
on my
head?
face? Yes,
yeah.
I do
It's
that.
a quick bat, like you're flirting with the camera. I like it. Before we go on, I know I just kind of talked about some funeral stuff, which was a little heavy, but I do want to take a moment to talk about Kyle Bossman. Just because the day that we're recording this, it's announced that he's no longer going to be a part of Easy Allies. And Kyle is, to all of us, a dear friend. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's interesting going through and reading everything the community is saying about him, and that you're all 100% right. I mean, he is such a creative force. And I wanted to talk about Kyle in the context of this show specifically. I really love doing Frame Trap, but I don't think I would love doing it if it wasn't for Kyle. I think not in a bad way at all, not in an aggressive way, but I do feel like going on the podcast, seeing all of the creativity that Kyle was pouring into the podcast, it definitely made me, even though it may not always seem like it, it definitely made me want to push to make Frame Trap better, to be a better host, to try to incorporate as many fun and interesting things into Frame Trap as I can. And I want to thank Kyle for doing that. And just two little quick tidbits. I kind of mentioned this in the Q&A, but Frame Trap was actually kicking around during the Game Trailers days, and it got shut down in like the worst way possible, where some people thought that no one would want to watch it, or there were just some things that were kind of personally rough for me to hear. And Kyle was never one of those people. Kyle's always believed in it, and Kyle has always been a person at Easy Allies, regardless of what we're doing, whether it's this show or any idea that we have. He really responds to passion, and if we're passionate about that idea, he will get behind it. And so no matter what happens with Kyle or the future or with Easy Allies, like as long as this show exists, you know, he's welcome to be on this show. And he also, if you go back and you watch episode 1 of Frame Trap, he came up with HOTTAKE, the word HOTTAKE, the thing that's kind of defined this show.
Yes.
Really?
Isn't even mine.
I don't remember that.
Because I was doing a hot take bit. I don't remember the full context of it, but he put it together.
Cool.
And it stuck. And that's kind of like the genius of Kyle, right? Like his brain just works differently and is able to put those things together. So from the bottom of my heart, just genuine appreciation. These are the best words that I could find.
Yeah, I think we've all learned something from Kyle,
Yeah.
whether we realize it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's going to be even more apparent in the coming months that he's not here. But it is felt immediately, for sure. Let's talk about some video games. I don't know how else to transition this. A big one. Brad, we had a lovely conversation. If you want some more in-depth opinions of mine on Nioh 2,
About 36 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, go look at that video. I was actually really happy with how that turned out. But Brad, you have started Nioh 2.
Yes, I started today.
Give me your history with Nioh and your thoughts on Nioh 2.
Okay, played Nioh when it came out. I enjoyed it. Never finished it, but I played a lot of it. Then I went back a couple years later and played a lot more of it, but I still haven't finished it. But I enjoyed it, and once 2 was announced, I was like, hell yeah, I'm way in.
Okay. So why were you way in if you didn't feel the drive to finish Nioh 1? Was it just the right time?
So, yeah, a lot of it is timing. I remember when I was playing Nioh, like, I had to do other stuff at the time, too. And Nioh's a very demanding game. Like, I got to focus up, baby. Like, feel the grind. I got to feel the grind, kind of, because it's such a big part of the game, I guess.
Yeah.
Or it was for me. But I need a break from that. But now that Nioh 2's here, I'm ready for that again. I'm ready to get back into the swing of things.
Something about Nioh 2 that we didn't really talk about, and this was true of the original Nioh as well, is I've actually kind of appreciated the mission structure. And it's something
really?
that I've always, like, in Demon Souls, I actually think it works really well. Like, it kind of gives Demon Souls a different flavor going off to these grotesque areas and then kind of coming back to the hub. And you have that in the interconnected games as well with, Fire
No,
Link
but I
Shaman
know
and
what you're
stuff.
saying, yeah.
And I think part of the reason I like it in Nioh is there are times when you'll just get through a mission, and because the mission ends, right, it's not like there's this huge continuous world to keep exploring. You're like, I feel good for taking a break. And something about that I think is very satisfying.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Brad, before the show, you were mentioning that you were having you said in Nioh that it's very difficult for you to pin down what you want to use.
Yes, it's something I struggle with. I don't know why this happens to me in this game, but I'm never satisfied with any build I try in this game. I don't know why. It's nothing I would say that's per se wrong with the game. It's just something with me. I just can't, I haven't found anything that's really clicked with me yet. I get bored of something. I see something new and I want to really play with it.
Right.
Then I do. Then I'm like, it's always the grass is green on the other side for no reason for me, and it shouldn't be. But it is that, and I've already experienced that today with me just like, did I make the right choice?
Yeah.
I'm like, I kind of want to play with this now.
You know what I think it is? Or I have a theory. Let me shoot this at you. So there's so many numbers and buffs in Nioh.
Yes.
Where every piece of armor might be giving you 3 or 4 different things.
Yeah.
And then you incorporate things like stat bonuses and weapon scaling.
Yeah.
And then you are combining that with the yokai abilities. And so I think just the amount of stuff might create more insecurity in a specific build.
That could be it. I see something shiny. I'm like, ooh, I kind of want to mess with this. Then I look at my stats, and they're not built around it yet.
Because you're
like,
getting stuff all the time.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going through a mission and you're only getting a ton of things at the end of a mission.
Yeah,
Gears
popping out constantly.
Right, you're getting new gear, and of course, a lot of that is going to be worse than what you have.
Yeah.
But the fact still remains. Also, though, I think a lot of shit is fun to use in Nioh.
Yeah. A lot of it is fun to use.
It's flashy, right? That goes a long way.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter is the same
I'm
quality.
like having a revolution in this because I'm using the spear right now, and I used the spear a bit in Nioh 1. And I'm just like, maybe I should just use one of the brand new weapons.
Yeah.
Just something I've never toyed with before. Maybe I should do that.
Right.
Which is the Odachi, which you
No,
used.
the Adachi is not new.
Oh, that was the DLC item.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't use that.
I believe Odachi was DLC.
Okay,
yeah.
that was DLC.
It's hatchets and switchblades.
Switchblades looks kind of cool. Kind of just reminds me of like a trick weapon from Bloodborne. So maybe.
It does look really cool.
So I'm like, that's pretty sweet. But the Adachi's pretty sick.
Brad, I have a fear of what is going to happen with Nioh 2. And because I'm, working on it in a critical aspect, there's certainly the incentive to explore thoroughly. But it's like, when people say, and this is totally true, when you're playing an RPG and you're like, all right, I'm going to save this stuff for the final boss.
Not Nioh.
And then you get to the final boss and you never use it.
Yeah. That's me. That's totally me.
What I'm worried about is going to happen in Nioh 2 is I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm just comfortable with the Odachi right now, so I'm just going to use it, and then at the end of the game, I'm going to mix it up, and then I'm going to worry that, that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The ways in which we lie to ourselves.
But I will say in Neo's defense, it makes it pretty easy to respec.
Yes.
It's not too brutal, so if you want to toy around, that's there. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Which is good. Yeah, I appreciate that element to it. It's not like Bloodborne where you're just like, boop, you're locked in.
Nioh is so fascinating. It's something I said in the preview that I stand behind is I kind of admire its willingness to be complex. And I don't think that if you actually spend some time, it's like, super arcane to figure out. But I do think it has more layers than a lot of games are willing to give.
I think it has a lot of layers going on.
And there are even just things that are super easy to forget about. So if you play Nioh, specifically Nioh 2, make sure that you are giving offerings. So there's a bunch of things that you can do with your excess gear. People complain that there's a lot of gear and stuff that you get in Nioh. And you can turn that into a lot of things. So sometimes, like, soul matching can be very expensive, especially at the beginning. So you want to sell stuff. Or you may want to dismantle stuff for materials. Or you can also make an offering at the shrine,
I know,
which will give you a shit ton of experience, which is really good. And then you also get divine rice, so you can restock on things during a mission.
I feel like the game gives you
good.
So much options so early.
Yes.
I'm just like, there's too much for me to do.
For sure, for sure. And it's definitely a game, and we talked about this in the preview, where you can kind of overcome it by numbers. So if you are in tune with that stuff and you figure it out, that will obviously pay a huge benefit. But it's also, it has that get good element, too.
Of course it
as
does,
well.
yeah.
Is there anything about, a lot of the complaints that I've seen about Nioh 1 that I think have some merit, I don't fully agree with, but I do think have some merit, is I think at a glance, people are like, this is too... I saw somebody say, this is so similar to Nioh 1 that I won't even be able to consider
I see. Yeah, sure.
Do you agree with that?
I kind of feel like that, but I feel like just small tweaks have made it even more complex. Like the yokai abilities you can use. You're like R2 and you can assign the yokai abilities. Like, those are really good. And I'm still trying to train myself to use them more often because I'm so not used to them.
Yeah.
So I think just like little tiny things like that have made a big difference, but I think on the surface it looks very similar. I guess you're in like feudal Japan setting fighting Oni again. A lot of them look very similar, but I'm still pretty early in the game, so it's hard for me to like really say. But at first glance, yeah, it does look like Nioh 1.
I'm not proud to admit this, but I do think the character creator does matter to me more than I was expecting it to. It looks really good.
Yeah, it does.
And I am now attached to like my Nioh 2 waifu in a way that I wasn't with the protagonist of Nioh 1, which is nice. And it does look very similar. It's not like a huge graphical leap or anything like that. But I think you are spot on about the yokai abilities. And I think the success of Nioh 2 is a bunch of little things that kind of end up mattering a lot when you think about them. And something that I didn't talk about in the preview that's cool is as you pick up soul cores, they'll say stuff in a demonic language that you can't understand.
Yeah, I saw that today.
But then you can eventually understand it. And so you're these enemies, it's a super minor thing, and this is a thing that Kyle Bossman would appreciate. I told him to play Nioh 2 because he was interested in it. Anyway, it's a super small thing, but hearing kind of these like death lines from the enemies, I think, gives these otherwise nonchalant demons a little bit more personality.
Yeah, that's good, yeah.
And I'm actually surprised. I think there's a number of things you could get into in the ways that Nioh 2 does insert personality. And so I also think the beta... I saw people say that, hey, I played the beta and I wasn't feeling it, or it was too hard, or it seemed too similar to Nioh 1, and so I'm not going to play this. And I get where they're coming from.
Sure.
Because I kind of felt that way after the beta. There were some things that I liked, but I do think Nioh 2 benefits starting at the beginning. I think the way the beta kind of throws you into it is less generous and less welcoming, and honestly less interesting than starting from the beginning, where you can really take things step by step.
Definitely.
I do think the game benefits a lot from that as well.
Yeah, I agree. I like the yokai form you take. I think that's pretty fun. That's like a nice little change from like just your spirit animal thing doing something.
Definitely. And I do think the new enemies that they added add a lot. I think enemy variety was definitely a weak point in Nioh 1, not counting the DLC because I didn't play the DLC. But in the base game, and I think the new things that they've added in 2 are pretty fun to fight. Even when and I love that. Like, the giant monkey guys, the Enki.
Oh, yeah, they throw the spear, right?
Yes.
Those dudes, yeah.
So they were really tough for me at first, and now I've got them down like a science. But even though I have them down, they're still an exciting fight. I feel like their moveset is diverse enough that they're still interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Which I like. Blood, have you played any Nioh?
I have not played any of Nioh 2. And
did you play Nioh 1 at all?
I got into those betas, and I liked the betas, but I ended up never actually playing the full game.
Put his toe in the water.
Yeah.
Blood, I feel like you are a rational man. I feel like you make very rational decisions. Some would say the most rational ally. I remember you playing a little bit of Monster Hunter World. And this isn't me trying to guilt you to play Monster Hunter World.
I was like, whoa.
No. I remember you play a little bit of Monster Hunter World, and you played the Nioh beta, and I know you've talked about things like Fire Emblem in the past, but these are things that you have not been able to dive into.
Right.
And this isn't a guilt trip by any means. I'm just wondering if you're like, oh, other guys are covering it, I'll go over here and focus on this stuff. Is that kind of where your head is at, or?
I think partly sometimes. Yeah. You guys definitely are all over Monster Hunter, and then
I'll say.
But
I love that I don't think that was an insult, But just the way that you said it was so
Beautiful.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, there is. I mean, Nioh 2 and Monster Hunter, I think, are just very different situations because I think with Monster Hunter, it feels like just that ongoing nature of it. And
Yes.
like any game like that is pretty a bit intimidating for me, to where it's just like this is just never going to end.
Right.
So it's sort of, I think in a way, it's like easier for my brain to deal with the things that like I could finish this in a week. So
Sure, yeah.
So
Blood, I'm so glad you say it because there's two games in particular that I really feel that way with. I want to play Final Fantasy 14 so bad.
right.
I talk about it every day. I feel like I talk about it every goddamn episode of Frame Trap, but I have that same feeling. I think you articulated it well, where it's like trying to jump on a moving truck.
Right.
Where it's like, I'm just trying to get a handle on all this stuff again. And I played a lot of Final Fantasy 14. But I'm just trying to get a handle on this again, but it's constantly changing and updating, and it just creates this insurmountable wall. That's a bad mindset to have. That won't get you anywhere in life, but I can't help from having it. I also feel that way about Warframe.
Oh yeah.
But Warframe, it's not. I know it's not. I've played it enough to realize that it's not. It's not this insurmountable wall, but like every time I think about Warframe, my mind just melts, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
But you can't make time for
Well, here's the
everything.
thing, Ben. You're already on a train going a million miles
I
an hour
am, yes.
with so much stuff that you play already. You'd have to
I went
jump
through
off
with
the
him
train.
today. There was a list of 13 games
Yeah.
that Ben has like been quote unquote assigned,
Yeah.
that he's taken. And then he's like, "Oh, but you forgot about Granblue."
Yeah! You got a great-
This guy,
And
dude.
the thing is like, I am putting time into all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just I want to do it all equally, and
Yeah.
that's not good.
It's not possible.
But
But yeah, so that's what today was like. Let's prioritize. Like, okay, this is the big thing. Get through this.
yes,
Then we'll do the next thing, and then we'll worry about the other stuff.
I do not make harsh decisions on games, but it is coming from a place of genuine passion.
Absolutely.
Like I really do want to play this stuff. Another game. So a game that I am making a decision on. Okay. I love it dearly. The first one, Ori and the Blind Forest.
Yeah.
Played through all of it 2 years ago, I think, something like that. Won't be able to play this for like a month or two.
Same.
Right.
Blood must be nice over here. Daniel Bloodworth has been playing Ori and the Will of
Dude,
the
let him
Wisps.
just let him have this must be nice moment. Like let the man have his moment. That's how I feel.
I was really just joking.
I know, but
I
I'm
was
just
really
like
just
poor
joking.
Bloodworth finally gets to play a game at release, dude.
Yeah, no. Well, what I love, and again, Blood, you have this ability to do things that I think are done for like the most genuine and earnest reasons, but they come off like an anime character who's pushing up their glasses moment, because they're every once in a while on the release schedule. And Blood is super not aggressive. He doesn't try to take a lot of
aggressive.
games.
Not
Any of that
aggressive.
stuff. But every once in a while, there'll be a Luigi's Mansion 3.
Yeah.
That'll just be like, whoop.
Yeah, I feel like
And you know what? The man has earned it.
maybe once a year.
The man has
maybe
earned it. The man has earned it.
he
Not
maybe
saying
does
he
that
hasn't
once a
earned it.
year. Yeah.
But it does happen.
But
Ori-
I mean, Damiani's got Ori, and
Yeah.
Brandon's got Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Damiani's stealing his Nintendo steez, dude.
Well, hold on a second.
Ori's not a Nintendo game. What do you mean?
I'm just
full
saying.
disclosure.
He steals all your Nintendo games.
I think Ori. I think Damiani might have snuck up on Ori. I think that might be true. But Brandon did have a diplomatic discussion with Bloodworth
Yes,
about Animal
absolutely.
Crossing in the thing.
I just like burying all of our coworkers.
Absolutely. Bury them
Yeah.
as often and as much as you possibly can. No, of course not. The comments that are like the most funny to me are the ones where they're like, I think they secretly hate each other. I'm just like, no. Like, there is no. I mean, I'm sure there's some difference. I don't want to get here and say like there's no difference between being off camera and on camera. Like I'm sure there is, but it ain't much.
It ain't much.
It ain't much. All right, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's a refreshing kind of thing because with the music, because I felt like when we got to the point of like starting to do like GOTY considerations and stuff for music, it's like man, I don't feel passion for anything in 2019. Like I'm not like I wasn't like really super invested in any music in 2019. And then I like started digging and I was like, okay, I like this, I like that,
Bang,
but
bang,
like
bang.
So yeah, even that, like even though that I like that song, but like the rest of it wasn't really like it was good, but it wasn't like really speaking to me in that same kind of way.
Sure.
Whereas I was watching Damiani stream Ori when we had the early access stream that we were able to do.
Yeah.
That, I'm like, all right, I'm going to like get my contacts on the line that I haven't talked to since like last GDC. Like, yeah, is he still representing Gareth Coker? Yes, he is. Okay, cool. Can you send me that soundtrack? And then playing it myself I kind of equated it because Darksiders 2, I only played because of that music. I would have never played that game except I did a backtrack preview on that soundtrack from Jesper Kid and really, really dug it. I'm like, I just want to like listen to this stuff in the real world. And then I'm getting kind of that sense again with Ori where like I really genuinely like Ori for a lot of reasons.
Right.
But the music is just so good. I'm just like, I can be doing whatever right now. I'm just be listening to this music in this pretty little world.
Blood, I want to have a conversation with you. I don't know if it'll be on this podcast or another venue. Not necessarily, about the game too, of course, but just about the soundtrack of Doom Eternal. I think you will have some things to say.
But that's the thing. So that was the funny thing is because like I had this moment, was it last night or the night before, where I was like, this is like already got to be like one of the top 5, right? You just think that off the top of your head without considering it, but then your brain goes like, oh, but Final Fantasy VII, oh, but Doom, oh, but The Last of Us. Oh, but Ghost of Tsushima is probably going to be pretty good. So it's like, holy crap, this year's so much better already.
2020 is going to be nuts.
I definitely saw some takes about the Final Fantasy VII Remake losing some of its charm with the music. And in a way, I sort of understand like the spirit of
the MIDI
argument.
aspect?
Well, yeah, just how like that specific soundtrack added so much to the game, and I'm sure if people feel this way, you can elaborate in the comments. But I did not feel that way. I thought that soundtrack of that demo was pretty amazing.
Was amazing.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wonder if partly because that soundtrack has reached a level, that few game soundtracks get to be at. I don't know.
I'll just say everything I've heard of that game. I'm like, oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to sound with an orchestra.
Right.
Yeah,
sure.
This is it. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine situations where I would be like, no, this sound should be electronic at some point,
Sure.
But I can't like off the top of my head think of.
I mean, I just think of like
what we played so far.
The Genova.
Right.
I don't think they've released that. I'm curious what they'll do. And like some of the other songs, like Under the Rotting Pizza, the do 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 do. Yeah, I'm just like curious how they're gonna do all that stuff.
Give me Cosmo Canyon.
Probably. Oh, you might get this game.
Just whenever you
It's
get
Red
around
13's
to
theme, so maybe.
That makes sense.
Sorry, listeners.
Yeah, that's gonna be a highlight.
But
it is.
But yeah, Ori.
Ori, baby.
Ori, baby.
Yeah, so it's been pretty good to me so far. I don't think I've gotten super far into it. I'm at for you guys probably don't know, but for the viewers, I'm in the windmill now, which is basically feels like the first dungeon, to where like you go into a door and it's separated off from the rest of the map.
Yeah.
But one of the things I like is it feels like the familiar abilities from the first game are kind of coming back pretty rapid fire. It's not taking me too long to get to certain things like the double jump was pretty much right away, and the dash and the bash, and so there's a lot of freedom like in aerial movement, and bash is still a weird word for me for that
bash
move, but it's the one where you like lock on to a lantern or like to a shot. And there's like elements of that I forgot about, like when something's spitting a projectile at you, and
you can like
you basically stick to it, and then you launch, but then the projectile launches in the opposite direction, so you can use that to like smash doorways and stuff, and crumbling like stone
what
arches.
What a cool
and things.
idea.
Yeah.
But I feel like the joy of movement was very obvious in Ori and the Blind Forest as well. So, but I'm the way that people are talking about Will of the Wisp, and I'm trying to keep at arm's length with it because I don't want it to be ruined. Why do you think the sequel is generating so much praise when the original was already so good?
Well, number one, the original was already so good. I think one of the things I'm starting to see where I'm at now is there is maybe a little bit more emphasis on characters. And so I actually just recently got to a town, which I don't remember there being a whole lot of that. And
No, there
it's
wasn't
sort of
really.
like, too, there's also like, I feel like there's some Hollow Knight inspiration coming in here as well, because there's a little map maker guy that you find along the
Oh.
way. There's also this whole system that kind of feels like the badges system, so that like you get these different, I think they're called shards or something like that, but you get these different things to equip that augment different things. So like one of them will give you a little bit more life. One of them will make your bow split into like multiple arrows, while a different one will make your bow like shoot rapid fire arrows. And so there's just like all of these different things, and then your slots you increase over time, just like you increase like your health and your energy.
I think part of the reason the badges system is so good in Hollow Knight is because of how painstaking the decisions are with what you slot in. Like you're pretty limited with what you can use, and those badges give you such different things. Do you feel like it's a pretty interesting decision here, or like you get enough slots where you can kind of do everything?
Not off the bat. You start
Okay.
off with 2, and I've got 3 right now, and
Okay.
I think I've got 6 or 7 different.
And do you feel
Things to
like
put into them?
all 6 or 7 of those things are worthwhile?
I think certain ones fit different play styles. Like there are ones that like will increase your attack but reduce your life. You know, and
That's me.
yeah. So I think it's actually called reckless. So there's stuff like that, and like it's not necessarily my style. I'll stick with the one that like reduces damage. But you can combine those and then kind of even that out, right? So that's a thing that's possible. But the other thing to make decisions on is you can also level up most of these shards. So something that starts off with, okay, well, this reduces your damage by 10%. If you invest some currency into it, then it reduces damage by 15%. Now it reduces it by 20%. So then, like, not only which ones do you want to have equipped, but which ones do you actually invest in and make more potent over time. So there's a lot there to kind of think about. And then on top of that, the other thing is there's more essentially weapons that you equip to different buttons. So the first one you get is sort of like a sword type weapon. There's a big hammerish kind of move. There's the bow that I said that can shoot things from a distance. And then there's a lot that I haven't unlocked yet because, again, like you're using those resources. Like, okay, do I spend these resources on skills, which are the weapons, or do I spend them on shards, or do I spend them on upgrading shards?
Sure.
But I saw one that's like there's like a shockwave kind of thing. There was there's a spear. There's one that has like a little sentry, like that thing that you had in Mega Man 02 the other day.
Oh, sure.
So there's just a little guy that floats around and shoots.
The bee cyber elf.
Yeah.
That's a fun sentence. Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's just a lot more to dig into and that kind of stuff in terms of
Sure.
the combat playstyle, and the enemies I feel so far are more interesting, because I felt like a lot of the enemies in the first game were just sort of amorphous blob type things and sort of plant things spitting at you, and now like they're not that out of the box. They're like just beetles and animals and kind of little dog like panthery things, but still they're more interesting. There's more variety.
Blood, I feel like you're jiggling my pleasure centers here, because really all I want out of any action game, like if you can do these things, I'm in, and I will probably like your game a lot, is give me interesting abilities that make me like sweat when I'm choosing or feel compelled to explore. Give me variety of enemies, but also make those enemies use all of those different things. Like make me use all of those different options that I have.
Oh yeah, there's a badge that increases your damage versus airborne enemies. So there's mosquitoes early on that are really annoying. Like get rid of them right now. And then when you get to another area, there's nothing flying around. So just swap that badge out.
experience any of what Brad was talking about with Nioh, kind of a dissatisfaction of like the path you're taking? Where do you feel like the grass could be greener? Is there some of that anxiety going on?
Not so much right now, because I think the sword is definitely like your basic go-to thing, and the hammer is like, okay, this is slow, but it's going to do a lot of damage. So like I'll use that when I kind of really need it. But I think it's, as I can afford more of those other abilities, and I have all of those in my tool set, then it, will probably be a little bit more of a decision. Like I don't know what that spear is going to be like compared to the sword. So like, do I want to go spear? But you can have 3 of those assigned at any time. So they go up on the face buttons. So you've got your jump, and then the top 3 face buttons you assign to whatever you want.
Something that was very nice, again, talking about those sort of basic action game Metroidvania components, is I really loved the difficulty of Ori and the Blind Forest, where it felt like a consistent challenge, but I never reached the, this is bullshit moment with Ori. It was very well designed. It was a very well designed game. Are you getting that same sort of sense of difficulty from the sequel?
Yeah, there's definitely quite a few times of dying, and watching out for traps and thorns and things like that, and then figuring out because it can be really easy to think that like, oh, I can't make that jump, but you just have to sort of wiggle your way up a little bit to get in the right position, and like, okay, cool, I made the jump, I got the little bonus over there, I don't have to come back to that later. So
is there any sort of difficulty setting, or you die enough times and it does the insulting thing of which
No, it doesn't do that. The difficulty settings are right off the bat, and you can't change them mid-game.
Yeah.
Damiani, I think, actually cut that from the review, because I think he ended up seeing like it doesn't really worth necessarily saying, but yeah, there's 3 difficulty options.
Okay.
And I think the normal is like just says the way the game is meant to be played.
I see. I actually kind of appreciate when developers do that. Where it's like, this is kind of what we're going for. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. But Brad, I consider you also an aficionado of Metroidvania. You enjoy your action games.
I sure do.
I kind of sort of hinted at the things that I'm looking for. If you had to name like one thing that you were prioritized maybe above all else in the genre, what would that be?
Oh, like a Metroidvania?
Or like a Souls, or like a character action game, or something where you're
I think it's a case-by-case basis for a lot of them. A lot of it, for me, is level design. If I feel like what I'm exploring is worthwhile and I'm enjoying going off the beaten path and enjoying going out of my way for things, that can definitely help. But sometimes like good combat can really, really carry me through a lot of stuff. So, yeah, it just depends.
Yeah. The one frustration I have had a little bit of is it feels like the map is pretty dense in terms of like the little pockets and stuff that you can go through. And if you look at the map, you can usually see sort of that fog. If you don't have the map for the area yet, you can sort of see that fog. You're like, okay, there's probably something over there. But actually that menu pop-up of like, okay, I want to look at the map right now. It just feels like it takes just slightly too long. I was like, oh, this is just kind of slowing me down to look at the map.
And are you playing on Xbox One X?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously I did the Hall of Grace presentation on Doom, the original Doom, and kind of playing Doom 1 and 2, and even thinking to something like Symphony of the Night or you could say other Castlevania games as well. I think developers over-design maps. Like, that wireframe map in Doom is all you need. Obviously, it's a much different time, of course, but I do think sometimes they miss the point where, especially with like Metroidvania games, you really don't need that much.
Where they feel like they have an obligation to pack it with so much stuff like that,
or just kind of. And I'm not saying Ori does this. You just made me think of this point, but I don't. I want to look at a map and immediately understand what I'm looking at in the simplest way. And I want to be able to translate what I'm looking at on the map and then like close the map and just like immediately see it. Like
Gotcha.
I feel like there are times where you're looking at a map and you close the map and you have that sense of wait, that what was represented there is not directly helping me move forward.
Well, that's like what we're always talking about with Control.
Yeah,
Like
Control.
that, yeah.
Control
Right.
was confusing for sure.
Definitely not as bad as Control. I
think Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a bad map.
Oh yeah.
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 Sorry.
I think maybe if there were like a mini map option, it's weird because Ori, like you're talking about the grid of Castlevania, but Ori's more blobby, more fluid, the way the
More
curves
blobby. I
and
like
things
that.
move around, you know.
Mhm.
So it's not always as simple as just having a bunch of squares on a grid.
Yeah.
Right. Sure.
There's
Sure, sure.
curves.
But it does. One thing that I kind of appreciate is if you walk past like a cache of currency or an item or something, and you didn't even see it. If you look at your map, it'll be highlighted there,
Oh,
so
okay.
you know you're like, oh, okay, there's a thing there. I can't get to it right now with my abilities that I currently have, but okay, when I get something new, then I can come back to this area, and it will be easy to find.
Cool. I feel bad that I'm not playing Ori.
Right? You got a lot to play.
I do.
Yeah. You being focused on what you need to focus on right now is good.
Speaking of things that I'm trying to focus on, so pretty much all of the games except for Nioh 2, I have been playing, and then obviously the funeral came and that interrupted some things. But I like these games immensely, and I haven't been able to put as much time as I would like to into them, but I still want to talk about them because I think they're pretty good. And one of those games is Granblue Fantasy Versus. The more I play this game, the more I like it.
Nice.
And I feel like Arc System Works has kind of... So to explain Granblue Fantasy Versus, because I think not everyone may be familiar with it, is a fighting game based on a mobile gacha property, which, listen, I understand that might scare you away, but don't let it. I think the character design, I think the world of Granblue is very fun. I've actually played some of the mobile game, not very much, but some of the mobile game. And I certainly think there's a charm there. And I think Granblue Fantasy Versus captures that charm. So it's made by Arc System Works. They make killer-looking fighting games, and this game looks killer. Like, it is just fun. You guys did, without me, thanks very much, by the way. You guys did a Granblue Fantasy Versus stream, and you showed off the supers and stuff.
Yeah, Supers Tuesday.
Yeah, it was fine. It was fine. And I think you can get a sense of that there. But going back to the original point, I think Arc System Works with the Persona 4 arena games and Dragon Ball Fighters and just different things. They've tried to figure out a way to make a fighting game both approachable, so anyone can pick it up and have a good time, but also add complexity in a way where if you know what you're doing with fighting games, or even if you're pretending to know what you're doing with fighting games, you'll have a good time. And I think they've done that with Granblue Fantasy Versus in a really fascinating way. So there are auto combos in the game, but it doesn't feel like... I don't know how to say this. It doesn't really feel like you're missing out. Like, the characters have individual mechanics. They almost have like a BlazBlue drive button where if you hit this button, they do a cool thing. And so there are all these unique mechanics where it's like, yeah, there are auto combos. Like, yes, you can just mash heavy or light or, medium attack and you will get a combo. But there are all of these other things going on, some of which are very specific to the character. And then you have other things like spot dodges, where every character can do this, right? But getting good at spot dodging at the right time or figuring out what you should spot dodge or what you should dash with is pretty hard, right? And so they kind of reach this point where it's not that the things are hard to do, it's about learning how to use them well. And I talked about this the last time I talked about Granblue Fantasy Versus, but I do think all of this is worth reiterating. Because time and time again, you hear people who are like, I can't get into fighting games, I can't get into fighting games, I can't get into fighting games. I think Granblue Fantasy Versus is a very good starting point.
Yeah.
Like, if you are that person who is sitting there, eating the dinner that you just bought and listening to this wonderful program and you want to get into fighting games, I really do think, like, this is one. There are many options, but I think this is one that is really worth going for.
And can I just say that, unlike a lot of licensed franchise-based fighting games, this universe, or maybe even it's just because of what they've done with this game, it's so ridiculous that you just can't help but have fun.
Do you
Like these characters are just
Yes.
so outlandish. Like you don't need to know who they are. You don't need to know their story.
Right.
It's just ridiculous to look at them and what they can do.
Right, and I don't want to go too far here, but I think back in the day, that was how a lot of fighting games got their appeal, or at least I felt that way as a
Right.
kid going into an arcade. Like, I wanted to play Street Fighter because they looked so fucking cool. Like, Blanca just looked like a rad dude.
King
like,
of Fighters,
seeing him
baby.
bounce around the screen. Yeah, right. King of Fighters, right? Terry Bogart's
Yeah.
a great example. Or Mortal Kombat, of course.
Oh,
And
yeah, of course.
Right. You see Kano. Kano, I don't know why I picked Kano.
Kano. Kano, wow, he's got a laser eye.
Kano was a weird pick there. Anyway, but Blood, I think your point totally stands. So, like some of those supers you were talking about, there's one where you throw them in the wrestling mat, and you are there's a referee counting down, and if you get to 3, they're done for. And so I think that stuff is naturally exciting. But I also think the way in which they compromise things that are difficult for some people, like I know people are gonna laugh at this, but I do think for some people doing a Dragon Punch is hard. Right?
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
Kind of condensing the special move format and making it be like, if you just push this button in a direction, you will do a special move. I like that, but I like even more that there's a consequence for doing so. Where
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you can do this, but things are going to go on cooldown. I think it's like a good in-between. Where
Me
it's
too.
Like,
Right.
you have this option, but if you build up to the other thing, you get
You'll be
even more
rewarded,
reward.
yeah.
So I feel like there's a clear path there. Another thing that I like, and I think I don't know how many people have checked out the mobile game because it has not been officially released over here.
Oh, interesting.
But the RPG mode is pretty interesting. There are some things that I wish it was better at, but I kind of like the spirit of what they're going for. So you have characters and you level up, and it's kind of cute how much they present it like the mobile game. A lot of things, like just the way that the map looks, how you choose quests, the conversations before and after the quests are really neat. But there's also, so like a gacha game, right? You are doing draws, and in Granblue Fantasy, you're getting characters and you're getting weapons. They have draws here, but as you do objectives, you're getting premium tickets that you can use to get new weapons. And then if you get a bunch of the same weapon, you can fuse those things together. So it's just, it's a nice nod to the mobile game, but that aside, it works as an actual, like, hey, if you like RPGs, this might be a good way for you to get into this fighting game genre and have this stuff, like that sense of progression is nice. And constantly moving
I feel like
forward
Soul
is nice.
Calibur's had a lot of that too.
Yeah, Soul Calibur has definitely had different adventure modes for sure. Yeah, and I totally think that is a good comparison to make. But something that I don't like, at least in the beginning, is you have a lot of these kind of trash fights where the entire quest is just defeat these soldiers. And it feels like a beat 'em up more than a fighting game, and I think that would be fine, but
Well, we totally misread. We thought it was going to be a beat 'em up, and it's like,
not quite
what's
that.
going on in this? This is taking a long time to get to the fights, and then they're over.
right. And so you kind of get dumped in there, and you're controlling like a fighting game character, but you're against these enemies, at least so far, who aren't really doing anything, but they're also not helping you really get better at the game.
Right.
I think what is more interesting is you do have these boss fights, these raid fights, where what you're fighting against has these different states and is actually another character in a game that has mechanics, and so at least you feel like you're kind of simulating the environment of an actual fight, which is nice. But they'll have like overdrive modes where they're more powerful, or they'll do these giant attacks, or they'll have moments where they're more vulnerable. So it feels like a nice concession between an RPG battle, a Granblue fantasy battle, and the actual fighting game that is kind of underpinning this thing. Whereas like the trash mob stuff just kind of feels like a waste of time and it's not that fun. I think if it was more fun, and I think it'd be more fun by having there be more going on, it'd be more worthwhile. So I don't. It's a good start. It's a good idea, but it's not quite there yet. But I really want to play a lot more of it. They've added some DLC characters. Beelzebub.
Yeah, the
Dio.
Dio.
And Dio, it's a good comparison. And Narmaya, who is
The
really
Katana
cool.
girl.
Yep. Yeah. Brad, you started a little bit
Yeah,
of Granblue
just
Fantasy.
messed around here and there. Seems fun.
Seems fun.
Yeah, I like it.
I feel like you actually pick up some fighting game stuff pretty quickly. And I think
I
you're
used to
one of
play
the-
fighting games a lot when I was
Really?
younger.
Yeah.
Like I used to play I played Street Fighter 2 a lot. I played a lot of the King of Fighter games. I played like MVC 2 a lot back in the day. Like up to
Who's
like
your team in MVC2?
my team. I always had X. I feel like I had Jill, and I would usually random that one. Like I think I had Ryu a lot. I love Ryu.
Brad, I'm going to do something that's a little comic book guy.
Sure.
It's not X.
Oh, is it just Mega Man
just
in that?
Mega Man.
Oh, you're right. That's X later on. That's in 3, right? Or is it the Infinite one? I didn't even play that one.
Infinite is X.
Okay.
Yes.
3
is 0.
Zero.
Yes.
That's right. Okay. That's right. I
Yes.
forgot. It's
No,
normal Mega Man.
I mean, it's an easy mistake
Close
to make.
enough.
Sure.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't played it in like forever, but I used to play that a lot with like my friends
Yeah.
growing up. But like, I've talked to you about this before. I like playing fighting games a lot more when I'm playing with actual people.
Yeah.
And it's just harder to do that as I've gotten older. So I don't play as many fighting games anymore.
Yeah, I actually think Wednesday Night Fights does a really good job of kind of simulating the experience, because I feel like I've read from people that have gone there where they're like, hey, I win and I'm trash at fighting games, but it was nice like having somebody come up and they like when you're learning the genre, there are things that you can't even see. So
Yeah,
it's
of
like
course.
you want to improve, but you don't even know how to do that. Like you don't even know the building blocks.
Yeah.
So when you're actually with somebody and they can be
They're
like,
teaching you,
this is
yeah.
what this means. This is what
Yeah.
how you're going to want to
Definitely
respond to that
helps, for
specific
sure.
situation. I think that's cool. And I wish there were more opportunities like that for more people. For sure. Our next game, Brad, speaking of challenging stuff, I haven't gotten a chance to play it myself, but I've heard nothing but like, I don't know if I would say horror stories, but like in the trenches for the Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, is it a boss fight? It takes like an hour or something. Like
No, I mean, not an hour. So the DLC is very strange. It is not what I expected. I will say that. And I think I understand where a lot of the frustration is coming from for this for 2 reasons. The story element to it is not very satisfying, or it feels like a little too short, and it's very expensive, I feel like, for what it is. I feel like people paid $30 for this thing, and they feel kind of burned by it. Because
Yeah.
essentially it's like you replay events kind of from the end of the game, but there's a story reason why, and that's like 2 hours maybe like that. Like the fights it's cool, but you've done a lot of these fights before. Then once you beat that, it's pretty much a boss rush mode to get to the final boss, and then you get some more story stuff, but it's like these bosses are not a joke.
Yeah.
Like these are hard bosses, man. So I feel like a lot of people are just like, I'm out. I don't really want to deal with this, because like you have to fight, I think 13 or 14 bosses or something.
Wow.
Like a lot of people.
Yeah, it's been kind of fascinating to see the response from this, having not been able to test it myself, because I feel like people are so sharply divided where you have the people that they're not in it for the mechanics, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they're kind of walking away disappointed, but then you get the people who
Love,
and
yeah.
live for Kingdom Hearts
Yeah.
combat, and they're like, thank you, I've been waiting for this.
Yeah, if you were disappointed with Combat 3, you'll probably be a little happier this time around. But I feel like if you're a more like just person who wants to go for the story, you love seeing the worlds,
Yeah.
it like hang out Disney characters, like you're gonna be out of luck.
Where do you fall?
Somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
There's aspects I liked of both, and aspects I think are kind of annoying. Like the story, I expected more from it. Like the Final Fantasy characters are barely in it. Like they're back and they're barely in it, dude. You're just like, what? It's like, this is cool. It's like the teasiest of tease of what could come.
Well,
it's
and
just
the
like
problem
a little,
is they'll show that, right? That's
Yeah.
what they'll get people to
yeah, they show it in the trailer, and
show
it's
it
like,
off in the trailer. Like,
barely in
there it
You're
is.
just like,
and then,
oh man. Like,
the trailer was almost it.
yeah. Like
Brad,
the fights are really cool. Like I really like the fights. Like fighting the bosses are really fun, and they're super like different. They have their own different unique mechanics and strategies. They're hard if you really like that challenge. But it is like a little unfulfilling of what it could have been.
sure. I think that is a very level-headed response to it. Have you gotten through all the fights?
So I'm at I'm at the very final, the final fight. It's Yozora, who is like the fake Noctis or whatever. They just Nomura was just pissed at Square Enix, so he made his own Final Fantasy 15 characters, and one of them is like the final character. It's a super sick fight. It's just really hard, and I just haven't put in the time to do it.
Is it hard in the sense that, like, the effort is no longer fun?
It's just like, yo, you can't screw up. You gotta be on point the whole time. It could be over in an instant if you're not careful.
Right. Boy, it's funny because I do love those types of games, and Sekiro was my game of the year last year. But I feel like even as somebody who loves those games and puts them at the top of his list, I feel like when you get like enough of that where it's like, oh man, all of these games kind of have that like don't make a mistake feeling, you get a little exhausted.
Well, here's the problem with that is like I love that stuff, but I really love the in-between moments of that also. When you do like 13 or like whatever how many boss fights
That's a
in
great
a
point.
row,
That's a great
it can
point.
become like a little tiresome. Like you run out of steam. Like if it was sprinkled out a little more, would really help.
What was that again?
Sprinkled out a little more would really help.
Brad, do you think Square Enix is weaponizing our love of Final Fantasy VII against us?
Yes and no. Because they're doing the right thing with the remakes so far.
Sure.
But then they're just teasing me forever in Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, I think it is important to look deep into your soul and answer yourself, like, if they put these characters in this stuff, like, you probably got me.
Yeah.
And of course, I am excluding mobile trash.
Yeah.
But for a lot of other things,
But it's like
it's true.
the what they could do with that series and like what the potential of what characters could be in there. It's like they put like the world ends with you characters and they're just like, what?
Yeah.
That's so rad, but I can't believe they're in here. Like I gotta do this.
Right.
Like, can you imagine if they just get nuts one time, Ben, just crazy, and they're like, yo, Chrono's in this.
Yeah.
Frog's
Oh, yeah.
in this. You're just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah. I mean, we would have we'd get Easy Allies together. We'd go to the Dave and Buster's.
Or
and
it's
we'd play
like
Time
even
Crisis
like
5.
even like they could get like if you're a fan of a particular Final Fantasy thing, even just like a small amount, you don't care about other games. Like they put the one character in from one of these numerous games in that you love.
Yeah.
You're screwed. It's like
you're screwed.
they could put like Ramza in from Tactics
It's
and
like-
someone's gonna lose their mind.
It's like they are indirectly opening your wallet.
Yeah,
like
they know.
it's like a ghost wallet. And you're
Well,
like,
it makes sense.
"Whoa!"
It's like them and Disney are like collaborating on this
Yeah.
project.
Right. Yeah,
But I
They
think
know.
that's kind of, and I don't know how well exactly because I didn't follow the trailer super closely, but I feel like that's sort of the problem with, putting something like this out there because I think at first it was really cryptic anyways as to what it was going to be, right? Nobody knew what it was going to be.
I was confused.
And I'm sure they had some kind of
But,
expansion
like-
pass or something, right?
No, I don't think they did.
You
Oh,
saying
no?
it's cryptic is par for the course.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like,
It's always
it's
cryptic.
cryptic.
But I'm
I
just
don't think
saying,
there
like,
was.
The pre-orders or something, maybe.
No, I don't
No?
think there was ever an expansion pass or anything.
Okay, I mean, then maybe not.
Yeah.
But to me, it feels like you could get burned just by not knowing what this is.
Yeah.
Because
Right, totally.
Yeah.
you see,
Exactly.
oh, Kingdom Hearts DLC, it's just going to be like more of Kingdom Hearts, but it's not. It's like this, almost like a challenge mode
I
with a story
think the
attached
price
to it.
tag just really hurts it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's a lot of money, I think, for what it is.
Yeah, I think that's a very
And
good
for
point.
like the crowd it's gonna please, like the combat crowd, I would say, or like the boss fight crowd, that's so much of a smaller part
yeah.
of the mass majority.
Well, I think what is most disappointing listening to your impressions is with Kingdom Hearts 3, the way I rationalized some of the decisions that they made with that game is I was like, okay, we got a lot to get through.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but with the DLC, and then especially seeing the Final Fantasy characters in the trailer, to hear that they're almost non-existent in it,
Yeah,
is a little bit of a head
They're
scratcher to me.
they're not that much in it. There's some cool parts because like they add a little, like you get to explore a little more of areas from the game that I wanted to see more of. But it's just like more, just a little more.
Sure.
For how much this is, I need a little more.
I think that is very fair.
So hopefully, whatever they do in the future, they will learn from.
I still want to play it,
Yeah.
but I feel like you're putting me in the right headspace going in.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
To know what you're getting into
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hey, if you listen to this podcast, we'll let you know
Yeah.
on like 5% of the games that come out. But speaking of games, and Blood, I'm so happy that you brought this. We have to talk about your sniff. You played through all of
Hell yeah.
Mega Man Legends,
Yeah.
and you started Mega Man Legends 2. We're focusing on Mega Man Legends 1 here.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was such like an enlightening thing because it just felt like a Kyle game through and through. It was like this everything that Kyle appreciates about video games is coming out of this game.
Expand
right
on
now.
that.
There is a moment when somebody asks you your name and you have an option to say Mega Man or hippopotamus.
Okay. Now,
I'm like, I know Kyle's gonna pick hippopotamus.
all right, Kyle, did you pick hippopotamus?
But also the sense of this world being alive, right?
Yeah.
A
I think
living
that's
world.
the strong part of the game.
This thing coming out between like Mario 64 and
Ocarina
like,
of Time.
Ocarina of Time,
Right in the pocket.
right in between that pocket,
Yeah.
and to be doing this on a PlayStation controller before analog sticks.
Yeah.
You know, like the controls are definitely like, okay, this is a hard thing to
Yeah,
go
you gotta
back
use
to.
the,
but they
triggers to
did it.
move.
You know, you have a 3D explorable world. And the only time I really didn't like the controls was like in the final boss because he was like jumping and teleporting. I'm like, I'm just need to see where you are to avoid your attack.
I feel like being immensely frustrated at a Mega Man final boss is
Par for the course. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm not saying it's right, but
Expected.
right.
But the stuff with the town, the first thing you get into, the first little zone, because there's like 5 or 6 zones to the town,
And that music is so good.
and then areas on the outside. The first you get into is this market, and not only are these, you know, you see have all these shops, but it's like, oh, a lot of these I can actually go into, and then there's people inside, and then the record store has all these music samples that are just here. Here's the jazz song, and here's the heavy metal song, and here's the like Baroque song. Like they're not stuff that's been repurposed from other parts of the game.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they're just here to make the record store cooler, you know. And the other thing that's crazy is you get into these battles with the pirates in town. And
The Bond family.
yeah, their shots will damage buildings, and eventually, like buildings will just like crumble, and now you've got like this empty lot. But then later on, after you've finished all that, then people start moving back in, and the mayor's like, if you give us money, we'll rebuild these buildings. And then you see over time the buildings get rebuilt, and along with that, all of these different tiny little steps of the story, the NPCs in the world, like their dialogue will change. And not only will their dialogue change, but like they'll move around. Like these kids that start off in the marketplace, they'll be somewhere else later. Or there's like a way later in the game, they're like out in the woods and they like taken this abandoned house and they're turning it into like their clubhouse, and you can bring them stuff to like help them, you know, make their clubhouse cooler. And this is like all of this stuff where so many other games, you'll just have an NPC that will like stand in the same spot no matter what happens, and maybe once or twice their dialogue will change. Whereas these guys just moving around, responding to what's happening in the storyline.
I feel like you have morphed into Kyle talking about this game. Like his passion has been taken. Like he's given you some sort of gift,
Right?
Like I think somebody posted this online where talking about Kyle and the Mega Man Legends presentation, where like he's All Might and he's giving you all for one. you have the Mega Man Legends,
And the dungeons are interestingly all connected.
Yeah.
Eventually, and it's cool where you get like a power up, like being able to jump higher, and like all of a sudden I can get up to that place I couldn't get to before, and if I go down that hallway, then I'm in this other place from the other side of the map. And I also really appreciate that like the characters, like the rivalry between you and the Bonds isn't exactly like hero and villain. Like you both sort of appreciate each other in different ways, and you know, and like when you defeat them, like Mega Man feels kind of bad about it. You know?
Yeah.
Well, there's pretty remarkable, and I would say Pokemon has this as well. Speaking of traits that I think Kyle likes, there's a remarkable earnestness to that game.
Yeah.
That it is so infectiously endearing.
Yeah.
Like it's just dripping with charm. And man, Blood, I've got too many things to play, but it was a game I adored as a super young kid, and I never finished it. It's not even that long.
And big set piece
I know.
moments too.
I gotta revisit it because it's on
PSN.
Yeah, I think
It's on PS3, PSN.
Yeah,
you can download the
I have it.
PlayStation 1
and I got to do that. And
ROM
I
or
read
whatever
it
it's
too,
called. Yeah.
but didn't finish 2 either. So I have to make that a priority.
Yeah, I got through it in like 16-ish hours for a first timer that was going back to dungeons every time I got something that would let me go back.
The way you talk about it though, and the way Kyle talk about it, I do feel like I kind of want to do everything. I don't know how worth it that is, but
cool upgrades.
It seems like just the way that you interact with the town, there'd be a lot of value in doing that. So, and like roll like hanging out in the back of that truck and just like going in there.
Yeah.
And Data's dancing around.
Yeah, the monkey.
It's so cool. Yeah. Is there like a Data plushie and/or?
There's gotta be.
Probably.
All right, we got to get on that. I think that's worth
Import.
spending company money on.
Import.
Blood, I'm sorry to sidetrack you.
No, that's fine.
Would you agree that Mega Man walking around in that game and the sound it makes when you're moving around is just like strangely satisfying? You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, it's pretty good. I had a
Not what you're hoping to hear.
it had a little bit of
that's
time
what
with
you're
the.
No, that's over here.
I had a little. It wasn't until I did like some of the mini games that I actually like really, like it was 100% sure that the jet boots were actually faster.
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
love
I
the jet
I
boots.
feel like I don't remember the mini games at all. I mean, I remember, of course, kicking the can.
Yeah, they were like in the TV station.
Okay.
They were like posed as game shows.
Oh.
So there's one where you like try to pop all the balloons in a time limit. There's some, but the one with the jet boots was like you're like racing through the streets, and so like you're trying to go around cones like a Gran Turismo game in a way.
Okay, that one sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That game's so
Fighting
wild.
with memory here.
Like
It is
a
wild.
Mega Man game like that. I wonder if they just made a Mega Man game to sell more or something. Like I don't know if it needs to be a Mega Man game.
Well, I mean, that's kind of something that is beautiful about Mega Man is how much it's transformed. I mean, even
That's
within,
true.
Even within the same series, like the X series transformed pretty wildly.
I guess it went from like the NES ones to X and stuff. Then that.
And I really haven't done much with the Battle Network series at all. That's one I got to do.
Yeah, I haven't played
Star
it.
Force. There's a lot of Mega Man out there.
Yes, a lot of Mega Man.
There's a lot of Mega Man out there.
Well, they kind of stopped making them so you can catch up.
But yeah, a couple
Make a Battle Network collection.
a couple of funny quotes. There's a sign on a door that says, "We're rich, but we've evacuated and taken all our money. So don't bother trying to break in while we're gone."
Nice. Some good 90s humor.
I feel like Kyle wrote that and somehow inserted it into every copy of the game.
Right.
I feel like it shaped Kyle
yeah.
Right.
strangely.
Like,
Some Kyle
we
quirks.
wonder how he does all this stuff.
It's Mega
We
Man.
found the
It's
source,
Mega Man.
right?
Yeah.
So
And
it's gonna be
then-
like a Horcrux.
Yeah.
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 And then I mentioned this. I mentioned this earlier, but
Snap the disc.
when you start Legends 2, it has the most funniest like way of justifying why you don't have any of your power ups. And like
boy.
Roll is talking to you, like, I wanted to make some upgrades to the ship, so sorry, Mega Man, I sold all your weapons.
Yep. Womp womp.
And you can't be mad at that role.
Right.
No. She's
Blood-
pretty cool.
I don't know if you saw, in Street Fighter V, they added a bunch of Mega Man costumes.
Oh.
So, like, Rashid is Airman,
Yeah, that's sick.
which is sick, but Sakura has this amazing Roll from Mega Man Legends
Oh, wow.
costume.
Oh,
that
it's
I
from Legends?
would- Yeah, boy.
Wow, dude, it still lives, baby.
Yeah.
It still
It's from
lives.
Legends. I would love to show that to you sometime. Blood, you said the forbidden word this time.
Uh-oh.
The demons are having a slightly difficult time remembering the exact phrasing because they didn't write it down. But I believe when you were talking about the Ori and the Will of the Wisp map, you described it as blobby.
Right.
And demons actually weak to blobby substances.
Uh-oh.
Blobby substances can have...
That's why slime is in right now.
Mhm.
Right. They can have demonic or angelic energy, but, that angelic blobby energy does a lot. What the hell is this show?
The best show. Our flagship.
Gotta write down the timestamp because I forgot my iPad. Everything's falling apart. Kyle, come back.
The left hand.
Yeah, he's still here.
Oh, right, he's still here.
He's still here, dude.
He's still here. That's a good point. Today, in honor of Kyle Bossman, I have a very special real or fake.
Oh boy.
Kyle Bossman.
Pokemon? Don't you say Pokemon to me?
No, not
Okay.
Pokemon. Kyle Bossman-isms. So these are just different things that Kyle has done. I believe these are all on the podcast.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
they should all be on the podcast. Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if they are real or fake. Are these things that Kyle Bossman has actually done?
Okay.
All right. Or Wars.
Real.
Oh yeah, real.
Corporate shakeups.
Yeah.
Real.
Real.
Word of the day.
No.
No. Yes.
Is that?
Yes, he has.
Oh. I'm
Final answer.
No.
Bloodworth pulls ahead.
Oh. Word of the day.
I'm thinking of a number between.
I don't
No?
think so.
Yeah, no.
Both are wrong.
Wow. When is it? When did this happen?
Pop-Tarts and toaster
Real.
straws.
Oh yeah. Come on.
I leaned actually on the official Easy Allies wiki for a lot of these.
Oh,
Okay.
They're all real. It just goes to show that Kyle Bossman has
Oh.
done a bunch of silly things.
What number am I thinking of?
Yeah.
That was really one thing?
you got to guess a number, and I believe he did something with the Prove It ticket.
Okay.
Whoever was closest.
Oh.
I didn't remember that one either. So
Whoa.
who knows? Maybe the wiki's wrong. I believe it's right. I wanted them all to be real, just to
Sure,
show
yeah,
off all
cool.
the different fun things that Kyle has done over his time with the Easy Allies podcast. But I was actually expecting you both to tie. But Bloodworth, you pulled ahead, so you will be breaking us out of this demonic realm. But before we get to that, we have some wonderful shout-outs that we would like to do. And what I've thought of for this particular shout-out, what we're going to do is I'm going to point to you, and you're going to say shout-out. Just you, not the other person, not me. And you have to do a specific pose, but you cannot repeat the pose.
Okay.
Got it.
All right? Elthanas.
Shout out.
Greg the Dark Knight Kettering.
Shout out!
Caleb Togi Crawford.
Shout out.
Will Schmuck.
Shout out.
Mr. One Luigi.
Shout out.
That went better than I was expecting. Good job. Thank you so much to our shout out tier patrons. That's a $250 tier on Patreon. And there are open slots. So if you want to get in, you want to see the allies do something goofy, if you want us to sing to you, I don't know what it's going to be.
Dude, I'll pose.
Yeah.
I'll do more poses, whatever.
I don't know what it's going to be until the last minute, but if you would like us to give you a special shout out, there are slots for April. Go get them. But now we're going to talk about another game. We're going to talk about a game that, again, I actually got to play a lot of this on the plane.
Nice.
And my E3 impressions of it were cut short. But I will not be
yes.
I will not be cut short now. I really do love Rune Factory 4 Special. And I actually didn't realize that it came out on the 3DS in 2012. So this is a pretty old
Yeah.
game.
8 years old?
Yeah.
Damn, it's like Fantasy Star.
Yeah, I think this is going to be blasphemy to some people, but I think I like it more than Stardew Valley.
Shut your mouth.
Yeah,
just kidding.
and I like Stardew Valley. I didn't play a ton of Stardew Valley, but this is really grabbing me. And so essentially what it is a Harvest Moon game where there is sort of dungeon action RPG elements. And you play as this character who ends up getting amnesia because, of course, and it's also like one of the
Sick.
most anime games ever.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
You're gonna know, I think, looking at this game
What
if
you're
you
in
can,
for?
Yeah, if you can handle it or not. But if you think there's even a slight chance, I do wonder if the aesthetic is turning off some people that would maybe otherwise enjoy it. I actually really like the aesthetic, but I think it's a game that it surprised me, and I'm a weeb, but it has really captivated me because. Sort of talking about that earnestness of Mega Man Legends. That's something I remember as a kid enjoying so much, is I just liked being in that world. I think the same is true for Rune Factory. Like, there's kind of this constant jokiness going on. Like, you run into people and they're just kind of bumbling buffoons. Like, there's this person that's always falling asleep, but they know it and you know it, and everybody just kind of makes jokes about it, and everyone's having a good time. And so you just enjoy being in this town, and you could do these super fun special events like this bean toss event where, no joke, they like line up like a firing squad, and they're throwing these beans at you.
Oh my
and
God.
different colors of beans have different point values, and you actually want them to hit you. So you're letting them abuse you with beans, and you're having a blast. But if they throw, and I quote, a failed dish at you, you lose points.
Okay.
So these different beans of different colors have different points. But you don't want to get hit by this unholy abomination that somebody's made. And then they just go, great, we've exorcised the demons. I think it's speaking to, and there are going to be some people that can help me out with this. They kind of talk about it like it is an actual tradition in Japan, or was at
Makes
some
sense.
point.
Oh, okay.
So that might be the case there. I don't actually know. Weeb card revoked. But all that stuff is really fun, and it's super satisfying that it kind of walks this perfect middle ground of feeling relaxing like you would want a Harvest Moon or Animal Crossing game to feel, but not feeling so relaxing that you kind of just get bored from the aimlessness.
Yeah.
Where, like, you want to pay attention to time because shops are open at a specific time, and like people will be around at different times, and so there are things worth paying attention to. There are things worth scheduling, but you can kind of do whatever you want. So, like right now, a good example is I can go off to this dungeon and explore and use my claymore and wreck some fools, but I'm not quite at the recommended level. So I'm taking it slow, and I'm like, well, I'm going to build up my economy. I'm just going to go hard on preparing my field and planting enough seeds. But there's different steps to that. So a system that I really like is this RP system, where everything you do, you kind of drain RP. So if you're like, well, I have this, tree stump that I need to break down, I'm going to mash into it to break it down, to clear up my field, to get some lumber that I can put in my lumber box so I can build more stuff. But if I do that, I drain RP, and you can take a risk. Once you lose RP, you start draining health. And so managing those resources is really interesting. But you can go to the bathhouse, talk to some sweet characters there, and they're pretty jolly, and they're like, you know what, we'll give you just a few free baths, and you can recover your RP, and you get skills for everything. Like, you get skills for going to the bath, you get skills for, like, sleeping at the right time, for watering your plants, and so you get that constant dopamine of skill up, skill
always
up,
getting
skill up.
something.
Things are getting better, but you also have a little bit of resource management. You also have a little bit of a time constraint, but none of these things are so crippling that you feel anxiety. Like, you kind of just get to a point where you're like, I'm going to do this, and you get excited about it, and you feel like there's enough pushback that it kind of makes it worth doing. So I actually think it's like a really well-designed game. It certainly looks like a 3DS game. It's not like just graphically, in terms of raw power, it's not going to blow you away. But I think it is immensely charming, and I think if you are like a diehard Animal Crossing fan, or you like Harvest Moon, I really don't have a lot of experience with the Harvest Moon series, or Stardew Valley, or any of those things, like, I think this is something that a lot of people are sleeping on, and if there's just a little bit more awareness of it, I think people would fall in love with it. The beginning is super slow. I think too slow. I think it takes just a little too long for things to get going, but very charming.
Nice.
Very, very charming.
Sweet.
Blood, you in particular, man.
Yeah.
I think you would dig it. You are a rational man. You would whip that farm into shape. You would get all the princess points, which are a thing.
Princess points.
I'm not going to explain that any further, but yeah, I do. I think you would. I think you get all the princess points.
Yeah, you get your weed card back for that.
For the princess points?
Yeah.
You're handing it back?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Princess points.
But speaking of...
And the bathhouse helped.
The bathhouse helped?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey.
Probably lewd.
I was trying to think of something to say there, and I got
I like it.
So I did
Hey.
like an A.
Hey.
Is that like a... Does anybody say A anymore? Is that
Just
just
the
like
fawns.
80s? Yeah,
Yeah.
not even that. Not even 80s.
Yeah, it's just the fawns,
Are
man.
we boomers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
okay with
Yeah.
accepting it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Absolutely we are, dude.
Yeah. Are we like boomer weebs?
Maybe you.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'll take it. Blood, you've been playing a super chill game.
Yeah.
Or you said it was super chill. I don't know anything about it. Called Lonely Mountains Downhill.
Yeah, which is an awkward title. Like every time it's the same, it's like, is that
Mountains
right?
Downhill.
Is that the right
Yeehaw.
sequence of words? Yeah, actually, it's been one of those things that's been on my backlog for a little while. I've actually been sort of like saving it for a frame trap. I'm like, I want to play that when I can talk about it. So I'll just put it there for now.
You're saving some stuff for me. I like that.
But yeah, I checked this out a little bit last E3 and then got the code later. But it's a mountain biking game. And so downhill is basically what it is. So you like start at the top of a mountain and then you like follow a trail down to the bottom and there's checkpoints and stuff. But the way the progression of it is really interesting because when you first start on a level, you're in what's called the Explore difficulty. And so there's no time limits, there's no requirements, there's nothing there, just like get to the bottom. And so with that, all of this is like really momentum and physics based. And so you're trying to figure out like where all the extra little paths and stuff are because there is like a main trail, but there are all of these different places where you can like jump off a spot or you find like another little hidden path behind a rock or something like that. And a lot of the times you just kind of have to experiment and like see what will work. And it's like, if that shortcut doesn't kill you, you can take it. And the routes are broken up into like different sections. So like you get to a section and then okay, checkpoint, and then like that's where you'll start, and then you get down to the next like little finish line kind of thing, and until you get all the way to the final one. But it's been pretty cool because like today's been a stressful day, and
yeah, it has.
And it's just like there's not like really a lot of music going on. There are points where you'll find, I found like a couple of like hidden paths to get to like basically spots where you take a break. And so your little character just gets off the bike and sits on a log or something and you just listen to the birds, and whenever you want to
That's Huber bait.
Stop doing that, then you get back on your bike and go back down the hill.
You know what's really sad, Blood, is like that sounds awesome and so relaxing and chill. But I would never do that in real life. Like, the idea of doing that in a video game, hell yeah, sign me up. But I'm not going to actually
ride
go
a bike?
I mean,
Go outside? Sit on a bench?
All these
Okay.
above, right? Like, you give me a game that is relaxing, and I'm like, hell yeah. But
I don't want to do that in real life.
I could do that in real life. You know?
Oh, well, I mean,
yeah.
it definitely goes a little bit beyond that, and like there's a little bit of like a Tony Hawkish element to it. To where, like, if you, smash your face into a rock and then you, like, see these, like, square blood spatter come out from your character.
I did not expect that.
turn,
Yeah, I did
yeah.
not expect this.
It's just a little bit to show, like, yeah, you hit that thing too hard and your, body went, flying off the bike there, and then you just hit reset and start from the checkpoint.
Oh, okay, never mind.
But anyway, so you have that explore difficulty, and then you get to beginner. And so beginner... like you don't have to meet these goals, but if you don't, then you don't really get any rewards. So you'd have to do the run again. But like they'll have like a time for you to get all the way down the mountain, and then a number of crashes. And so if you get the time goal, then maybe you'll unlock like a customization option or a bike part or something like that. And then if you like get down like a limited number of crashes, then like you'll open up the next course. And then the expert mode, you'll unlock more things like parts for your bikes or things that like maybe unlock another bike. And then I saw that after expert, there's also no checkpoints run where you do the whole like 7-section thing without crashing at all.
Have you done any of this?
I have not done that, no.
Okay.
Or expert. But if you do that, then there's some hidden reward. They don't tell you what it is. So, but I've basically just been like going to like, I want to see the next course. So it's like, I'll do the first couple. And then once I get to beginner, like, okay, let me see what the next course is like. And then after a couple of those, I actually unlocked another mountain that was like more fall themed and had like some waterfalls and stuff and more points where you have to like do these crazy big jumps. You have to speed up and like jump off a rock over to another area.
You mentioned like getting off your bike and just kind of appreciating the scenery. Do you feel like that is pretty different from course to course, where it's like, oh, I'm glad I got off here specifically because the view is different.
Not necessarily. Yeah, it's just kind of like it's just kind of like that reward of exploration of like, let me go down this thing. Does it actually lead to anything, or am I just gonna die? And like, oh, this actually does go somewhere. And I feel like there's a lot of little moments like that to where you're not sure if this is a path, but you end up, being rewarded for it one way or another, whether it's a like really extreme shortcut or it's, one of those rest areas where you get that little stop, that little time to appreciate, the woodpeckers hitting the trees or whatever.
How long does it take you to get through a course?
Like your first time down, like it can really vary because you're like messing around, but like the time limits are usually like around 3.5 minutes or something like that. So it's not too bad.
Definitely seems like a nice like cool down game in a lot of ways, which considering what I'm playing right now, that could be very useful. Although Rune Factory 4 is a little bit of a tricky beast because you think it's a cool down game.
It's
like,
not.
I'll just relax, and then you get sucked into it. And you're like, well, I got to check off these things.
Well, that's why I think it's interesting about how this kind of works both ways because, like, okay, well, when you're exploring and when you're doing the beginner mode, like, it's not too bad. But even the time limits on the beginner mode, it's like, oh, I don't just get this because I did it.
Right.
Like, I need to start looking for shortcuts. I need to start figuring out, like, the quickest path that's going to get me down there without wiping out. So,
Blood, this sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the stamp I'm going to give it. Sight
Pretty
unseen.
cool.
This sounds pretty cool. But you know what is definitely cool? Resident Evil 3.
Yeah.
Brad, we are coming up on Resident Evil 3. I broke down and I watched all that footage. I told myself I wasn't going to.
Oh.
Yeah, and because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Okay?
I understand.
Resident Evil 2 Remake is a good meal, and sometimes you just want to eat the meal.
That's what I've been doing with Final Fantasy VII Remake, dude. I'm just eating it all.
I actually have held off on that pretty well, other than the demo, I guess, which is like...
Yeah, sure.
Whatever. Anyway, Resident Evil 3 is a good game. You're revisiting it. You're hungry for Resident Evil 3. What was it like revisiting the PS1 version?
So, for a little context, I did this with 2 also, because I haven't played a lot of these since they kind of came out. Since, like, pretty much then. And I hadn't played 3 pretty much since it came out. So I was like, you know what? I had a lot of fun going through the remake of 2 and seeing what was different in the remake. I'm going to do that with 3 right now. These aren't too long a game, so decided to boot up old Nemesis, baby.
Brad, you are a man of culture.
Yeah, and I forgot how much of this game is much more out in the city, actually, of Raccoon City. You're actually going through a lot of the city, like to different locales. Like, I love 2, but a lot of 2 is just like you're in the RPD, then you're going underground. Like, it's all great, though. I think this was a nice step of, like, expanding Raccoon City. And it's just really cool, like, going through these, like, little areas, like the gas station, and you go to, like, electric power kind of area like that, and you go to the RPD also, and you're running through, and you're like, oh, this is cool, I did this in 2, but, like, you're at a different part of the game when, like, Leon and Claire aren't actually going through there. And obviously the biggest hook of this game is Nemesis, which is still pretty spooky.
Yeah. Well,
Still
just the
pretty spooky.
unexpectedness of him, yeah.
Because I'm like remembering a lot of this and how relentless he was in this, and I think of Mr. X or Tyrant, whatever, in Remake, and how relentless he is in that game compared to his original one.
Right.
I'm like, good God, he's going to be out of control in this remake if he's at this level right now. Because this guy will follow you through rooms. He's hunting me through multiple sections of the level, dude, and he's not an easy guy to take down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we kind of had like this weird like internet scare last week where there was this report that like, oh, he can break into save rooms, blah, blah, blah.
Blood, you are not technically wrong, but that is like so much more dramatic than what actually happened.
Internet scare.
Like so many people were freaked out and like, I can't play this game now.
Yeah, nowhere to hide.
Oh my God.
But and then it turned out that like Capcom was like, no. That's not a save room. It's just you can save there, but it's not the same thing. But it's so funny because like that was like one of the things like you're not supposed to tell people where exactly he will get you. So what do you put everyone in a panic for no reason?
Yeah, we'll just hang outside the door.
Brad, the first time I played through Resident Evil 3 was on stream at Game Trailers.
Oh, right.
Right, yeah.
It was my very I mean, I had played like a demo or something before, but that was my first like substantial experience with Resident Evil 3. And I was shocked how much I loved it because I grew up with the Resident Evils, but being, limited on money, there were just weird gaps in series that I liked. And Resident Evil 3 was one of those gaps. And I think even coming to it all those years later, I honestly think it stands toe-to-toe pretty well with other Resident Evil games.
Yeah, the part I think it slips is a lot of it's like its boss encounters.
I think the worm boss is bad.
The worm boss sucks, and like the rest of the game you fight Nemesis, like, which is fine.
Sure.
But it's like you don't get a lot of variety, I guess.
Sure, I think that's totally fair.
But I think the biggest strength of 3, the thing I liked about it the most was, like I said, like the open of going out and like it feeling kind of big, especially at the time.
Yeah.
But you also get these really like small areas where you're like, you're in the clock tower. You're only in the clock tower, and it's very like old school. It reminds me of the Spencer Mansion almost. So you get those little tiny moments that you liked about the original ones, but then you also get to go out a little bit and roam around.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with what you're saying about Resident Evil 2, the original Resident Evil 2, because while that whole game is excellent, when I think about Resident Evil 2, like my mind immediately goes to that just incredible opening sequence in the burning Raccoon City. And it is nice in 3 where you get a little bit more of
you get a lot of that.
Yeah, which is really cool. Also, Jill is just the best.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Watching the Resident Evil 3 remake footage, much like Resident Evil 2, I feel like they are some of those areas, like it's evocative of Resident Evil 3, but it also feels so different, which is exciting.
Yeah.
I think it is so cool that we're not just playing a literal interpretation.
Yeah, me too.
Which is really, really neat.
Yeah. Also, like one really unique thing about that game is the choice making, the decisions you can make. There's
Nemesis.
like not a ton, but there's I'd say enough throughout the game where like one of the earlier ones is like you're in a restaurant and you're talking to Carlos and Nemesis busts in and it's like, do you want to hide or do you want to like go down in the basement or something like that? And it's just cool that you have this little outcome. I saw like you could go like later on in the game, you can come in different ways depending on what you choose. And I think that's a nice little way to add replay value, especially that game because there's only one playable character. So I don't know if the remake has any of that. I'm not sure.
It'll be interesting to see how those playable Carlos sections pan out.
Yeah, the Carlos section is really cool in this. You go to like this sweet hospital.
There's so much about Resident Evil 3 that I don't remember, and part of me is wondering if that is just because I feel like when you're streaming,
it's different. It's completely different.
You don't absorb as much.
It's completely different.
I could actually stand to benefit from like a personal playthrough.
Sure, yeah.
Of Resident Evil 3
it was great.
myself.
I had a great time playing it.
Nice.
I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I love Resident Evil games. These are great, man.
So when the Resident Evil 1 remake came out on PS4, I know you played a lot of that, and then obviously you played a lot of Resident Evil 2 remake. Not necessarily talking about Resident Evil 3, but I think at Easy Allies, we like to play Resident Evil pretty often.
Yes. We're fans.
Does this revisit make you kind of want to put that in the rotation more? Like, did it kind of increase your fondness for it?
For 3 or
For 3,
Resident Evil?
for 3.
Oh, yeah, it totally did. I was thinking about playing it again, but I was like, no, I can't. I got other stuff I have to do.
Yeah.
I'm happy I just got this in there.
Nice.
Yeah. Yep.
You know who else likes Resident Evil? There's a game design student in Mega Man Legends. It's like, I can't wait till I learn how to make games that are as cool as Resident Evil.
Wow.
But the way that
baby.
you framed that, I thought you were going to say Michael Huber.
Yeah.
And I was just going to be
I
like...
was like, yeah, duh.
Yeah.
Duh, blood. Oh, Brandon. Oh, wow.
Oh, that's pretty good. Dear audience, before we move on to the next game, something that I've noticed with the frame trap and some of the feedback that you have given me is that I am pretty bad about sticking close to the mic. And being the host of this show, I talk a lot, and so that could be annoying. Please let me know. It's something that I've tried to make a conscious decision to improve because it annoys me when I'm editing frame trap, so I think you are
Maybe we should put like a note
100%
over
right.
there. Just be like, talking the mic.
Yeah,
something.
I'm just a very animated person when I talk.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the frame trap has this effect where I just get more relaxed. And so I'll be watching footage of frame trap, and I feel like halfway through the show, I'm like this, like, oh, yeah, that's cool, Kyle.
Yeah.
Tell me about Pokemon.
Yeah, there's a bathhouse.
Yeah. So it's just really easy to get into that vibe. But it is something, I'm
Definitely.
trying to keep in the front of my
Frame
mind
Trap's
as best
a
I can.
chill-ass show.
Yeah. But what is our next game? Oh, having gotten to play as much of this as I would like, this is the second time I feel like I can say this, where the first time I played it, and I actually streamed it a little bit, I've actually played more now with the ultimate version of Warriors Orochi.
Oh man.
Yeah. And I just
feel like you always have a Muso game in your pocket at all times.
I do.
That One Piece one's coming quick.
Oh
I've been
god.
playing some Pirate Warriors 3. It's really good. I don't have time for any of this shit.
Yeah,
but-
how does he fit this in?
Okay, so Silencio. Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate. He's not a good game.
Sure.
I can't like consciously get on this podcast and be like, yes, this is as good as some of these other things we're talking about. It's not. It's just not. But I love it, and I think if you are like me at all, you can get a lot of pleasure. It is mind-numbingly easy, and a lot of that could be the way that I'm playing it. But I post this message in Slack, and no one responded to it because no one else cares about Warriors Orochi.
Saw it close Slack.
Yeah, no one else cares. That's fine. But I said, and this is the best way to sum up this game for me so far, is it has to be like some of the most dumb fun that I've ever experienced in a game. And I really liked Orochi 3 as well, Orochi 3 Ultimate. That's kind of what got me interested in the series. But I feel like 4 Ultimate is even dumber and even goofier in a way that, like, I am all about. And, like, this game got so stupid that I was laughing. I actually was laughing at my television. Not like, deep laughter. It was a shallow laughter of love from a man who's trying to take stock of the simple pleasures in life.
Yeah.
But anyway, Warriors Orochi 4, what's so fun about it is you can just kind of combo endlessly. Like, there are so many mechanics now where it's like, just never stop attacking. We're just gonna make the numbers go into the thousands, and you're gonna feel good because you're comboing, and you're just gonna see the numbers go up, and it's gonna be amazing. And it just gets stupid. Like, you are attacking, and you're switching characters to continue the combo. So you'll do a combo with one character, and at the end you'll switch to another character, and they'll keep going. So you're just pummeling endlessly. And this is something that Warriors Orochi has done before. But a new mechanic in 4 is the magic system. And it's ridiculous. Like, you are just, like, shooting tidal waves at these people, like giant beams of angelic energy. It is amazing. And, like, it's just like you are waging death. If you are somebody who likes to wage death, I don't even know what that means, but you can get that in Warriors Orochi 4 Ultimate, and it's super fun. Again, not a good game, but where I lost my shit.
But you're having fun. Yeah.
Is the plot. Here's the plot, okay? I'm going to sum it up to the best of my ability. I'm probably going to get it wrong, but you get all these different warriors from all these different time periods, and they, like, get into a conflict with Greek gods and, like, Nobunaga for no reason.
It's always Nobunaga.
Yeah, it is. It is always Nobunaga. And there's a point where I was playing as this, like, female ninja waifu, and she just deifies, is what they call it.
Oh.
And so she, like, kind of becomes a Greek goddess herself and gets these angelic wings and these revealing clothes, and she's like, oh my! And you get even more powerful because you are a Greek god in this, like, ninja samurai battlefield destroying everything, and I was having the time of my life.
Yeah.
It's super shallow.
Yeah, Ben,
I love
you're their target audience.
Yes. Yes. It's very, very fun. I think that is something that I like about Warriors Orochi specifically is how goofy it is, and of course other Warriors properties are also plenty goofy, but I feel like Warriors Orochi takes it that extra level, and there's also kind of this tightness to it that certainly wasn't in Dynasty Warriors 9, where it feels right, for lack of a better word. I've seen some conversation that people think the magic system, like, kind of breaks it and makes it too easy, and they're right, but if you were to break a game, it might as well be this one. Like, it is broken and easy, and I'm kind of just swimming through it, but it's something where it's like, I just want, like, 20 minutes of this.
Yeah.
And it's hitting that spot. I don't know if these impressions did anything for anyone, but
Someone out there.
Let me know.
They'll let you know, dude. There's probably a lot of them.
Brad,
Yes.
Tell me about Pokemon Mystery.
Oh.
Is it Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX?
Yes.
The full title? Okay.
So I've never played a dungeon game, I guess. This is a series Bloodworth told me.
Mystery dungeon games.
Mystery dungeon games. I've never played any of them.
I haven't either.
Goes
really.
back decades. Who knows when they
this
started.
was a DS or a 3DS game or
No,
DS?
GBA.
This one?
This one was the GBA.
Okay, this was
game,
the GBA
yes.
game. Okay, so it makes sense to me that this game was a handheld originally, how it's designed. So pretty much, I'll just get like broad terms. The whole game is you go through a dungeon, you buy some items at the shop, the town nearby, you go to sleep, you repeat that throughout the whole game. It's the whole game. So you play as these Pokemon in this game where you choose a Pokemon who you want to be at the beginning. I picked this weird like water dinosaur. I don't even know what he is.
Totodile?
Yes, that's it. See, I'm not super familiar with a lot of these Pokemon.
Wait a minute,
now.
but you are a human that becomes a Pokemon, right?
Yes.
That was an eye roll there.
You don't see that. You're just a Pokemon. You don't know why. And you pick a partner like who's going to be right through the whole game.
You don't know why?
I don't know why
That
yet.
seems like important information.
They tell you throughout the story. Like that's the story of this game is why the hell you're a Pokemon and how it happened to you, okay? So then you get this Pokemon with you, you pick your Pokemon. I picked Eevee to be my partner. And you make a rescue team. Like all these Pokemon, they're rescue teams in this universe.
Yeah.
I wonder if this game makes Kyle furious, just like what's happening in this game.
Well, he said he was out because of like the personality quiz that you have to take to be a Pokemon, which is
So it asks you questions at the beginning of the game. I did this twice, by the way.
Okay.
And it gives you different questions. I was surprised at.
Okay.
But it's like, oh, you seem like this Pokemon, and it's like, do you want to be? And you just be like, no, and you just pick whatever the hell you want to be.
Okay.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I've seen that done before.
Yeah, just give me some Pokemon I didn't want. I was like, I don't want to be this Pokemon. No. But so you pick this Pokemon, your partner, you make a rescue team. Rescue teams are big in this universe, apparently. Pokemon that are like, they help out. They're mercenaries, pretty much. People give them tickets to help you out. Mm-hmm. You go to a dungeon and you rescue them. But the problem with this game is going through the dungeons is pretty damn boring, dude. I get pretty bored doing this. It's super
There's just
basic.
Not enough to it?
There's not enough to it. It's super basic. Like, it's cool, like, that it, like, implements elements from Pokemon that people, like, I could totally understand liking. Like, you get your moves and you level up, you pick a move to get rid of to learn a new one or something like that. Like, that's cool. You learn new abilities. I don't know if there's evolutions in this yet. I think I'm, like, 8 hours in this game right now. But you go through these dungeons, super basic layouts, man. And you're just going through and you're fighting guys, and it's like kind of clumsy and kind of turn-based, I guess. Like you move a tile. It kind of reminds me of like Necrodancer or something like that. You move a space and like something will happen. The enemy move. Like every space you move, they'll react in that sense.
Which seems typical of Mystery Dungeon
Totally.
games.
Yeah.
So you're just fighting Pokemon through there, and like every single mission is like you rescue Pokemon or you feed them a damn apple or something. Like you get on a floor and it's like this Pokemon's hungry, give it an apple, and you give it an apple and it's like, yay, job complete. And you're like, cool. But you could do a lot of times, so that's nice, I guess. But it's just like this the entire time. You can also, when you battle Pokemon, you can sometimes recruit them to come with you, which is cool.
That is cool.
Like, you can roll with a squad of Pokemon. You can just totally wipe the floor with everybody.
Do you have to negotiate with them, Shimigami
You beat their ass, and they're like...
You beat their
ass, or you give them food, and they're like, hell yeah, thanks, dude, I'll fight with you. And it's
I
like,
want
cool.
to play your version of Mystery Dungeon, where the Pokemon talk like this. Here's your damn apple.
Yeah, here's your apple. You're like, bloop, and they're like, oh, sweet, I'll join your crew. So, like, you go through the dungeon together. And at the end, you could keep them, or they'll have to go away. And the way you keep them is by spending your gold to buy, like, habitats, almost unlocking camps, they say, like, different habitat camps that the Pokemon can hang out in. So I have to buy, like, if you have a fire Pokemon, you'll have to have a fire place it can go hang out. And these is where you spend your money on most of the time. Some of these are pretty dirt cheap. Some are really expensive, so I still have a lot of stuff I have to buy. But I've bought a lot of them already. So you get these Pokemon, you can recruit them. If you don't have a spot for them, you still get gold, so you still get something out of it. But it's just so repetitive, and I think it works. It works pretty well in a sense of like you do one dungeon run or something like that. You know, you got a few minutes, you do like 20 minutes or whatever, you do a run, cool. But if you're playing this game through a big session when I was, because I was working on a review for it, I'm just like, dude, this gets real old real quick.
Sure.
So I'm like, man, I'm not playing this game I think the way I'm supposed to be playing it, but like, man, I have to play this game. So
Right.
it's
You
like a
feel
weird
like the
it's a
intensity
weird
of it-
catch-22, yeah.
They review, sure.
And like just now they're kind of introducing like story elements of like why I'm a Pokemon and like how it's happening. If you were a diehard Pokemon fan, I think there's some stuff out of here that you'll like because you get to play as Pokemon, you get to recruit Pokemon.
Yeah.
But for someone like me who's like, I loved Pokemon like back then, but I don't have like a huge affinity towards it now, I'm just kind of like, it's whatever.
Brad, I'm very torn because I've actually had the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games on my radar for quite a while, specifically due to enthusiasm from specific parts of our community.
Yeah, like this has a big fan. I had no idea these games had like a big fan base or anything.
Right, and I think I like Pokemon. I think I'm more attached to it than you are currently.
Oh, yes. You are.
And there are some Pokemon spin-off games that I weirdly loved. Like I really liked Pokemon Conquest a lot. And so I have to wonder, like, maybe with like more investment in Pokemon, you get more out of this, or
Definitely.
if it is just too simple, or if it's kind of like a mix between.
So like I understand like going in this, I'm not like a humongous Pokemon fan. I totally understand that.
Totally, yeah.
But that won't stop me from going through it if I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And there's not enough there as like not a diehard Pokemon fan to like keep me super invested.
The raw mechanics are not doing it for you.
Yes, it just doesn't do enough for me. It's just kind of slow and kind of boring. Like if you like the idea of collecting Pokemon and assembling this team, like you will be happy with this. But if you're looking for something a little more than that, you might not find it, like me.
Yeah.
But the game does try to do like some boss fights, I guess. Like I fought a Zapdos or whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But like, it's all very simple.
Was it challenging? I mean, Zapdos, legendary bird.
No. This game's pretty easy to get through. Like, I'm not expecting it to be a hard game. That's fine with me. I'm okay with that.
Sure.
But I feel so overpowered because by the time I get to the end of a dungeon, I got like 15 Pokemon with me, or it's not 15, but a lot with me, and they just go because they all hit him too.
Right.
And I just like wipe the floor with all these bosses now. I'm like, that's cool. But like, I did put in the work because I'm trying like the side quests. I'm like trying to see all the variety, all the games got to offer, all that stuff. So I might be a little more over-prepared than I am, which is cool that you could do that, I guess. But
right.
We're gonna keep going. We'll keep seeing how the journey goes. So I'll report back.
Brad, not to take this away from Mystery Dungeon, but you did make me think of a point in Nioh 2 that I want to bring up really quickly, where I actually really like the way Nioh 2 is designed, where I feel rewarded for going and doing all the side content, where because you get so much loot, I feel like every time I'm doing a side mission, I'm getting better loot anyway, and because I'm doing a side mission, I'm getting more experience. And then you get rewards at the end of the mission. And then some side missions even unlock like additional features in the dojo. And I just think that is a big point in Nioh's favor here. I love when games really make me cherish the fact that I put in the effort to do the other stuff.
So the problem with a lot of the side missions, like I said, is like you're retreading the same ground, like the same dungeons, the same theming ones, and you're just giving them an apple or you're finding them, and that's it. And you get like you have like a rank that goes up when you do stuff, so that's cool. You can hold like more items and stuff like that. So like you get rewarded for it, but I don't feel like I get like super OP from it. The best thing the game gives you are these things called dojo tickets, I feel like right now, which you can spend to go to another dungeon with a countdown where you can kill guys, but you get a lot of XP. So I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm just going here, I'll level up a little bit. The game has an auto walk feature for you in the dungeon.
Yeah.
So if you're real bored, you could just push L and it'll like go through the dungeon for you. But then you can just get in a fight and just push like A button. You can wipe the floor with most things.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm not giving up on it, obviously, but I'm hoping it does a little more for me.
Brad, again, much like the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC, I feel like these are super. I like this. I like this perspective. It'd be good going into it with. I'd still like to give it a try. I'm still curious.
Totally. I'm not saying not to try it at all.
For sure.
Yeah.
But you know, I feel like you are giving it an honest effort, and
I'm doing my best. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I remember because I hadn't had a lot of experience with these either, and I remember I had to review the Chocobo Mystery Dungeon.
Oh, how
on the
are those?
Wii.
Another one that I've
but again, it's the same.
It's
I
the
mean,
same
it's the same
thing.
template,
It's just
right?
Final Fantasy stuff.
Yeah, it's Chocobo
right?
stuff, and it like had
I
a really
like
cool
Final
opening
Fantasy.
cutscene, really cute Chocobo costumes.
Yeah.
But like same kind of thing. Like I actually got into playing this game and like, man, this is super boring and super drab feeling. Like the way the dungeons are kind of designed and stuff. And so that's why it was funny. There was a Nintendo Direct, I don't know, sometime a couple of months ago or maybe a year ago now, where they announced they were like remastering that game. And I would like just exclaim like, why? You know?
Hey, people.
Because that was the exact same way I felt about Chocobo.
Yeah, people love it, man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We'll see.
I always get fascinated by that. And I honestly, going back to the Muso thing, that is actually what kind of drew my interest, because I remember growing up and not being impressed by Musos and game journalists repeatedly shitting on them, but there was this dedicated audience. And I was like, I actually really love when that happens.
Yeah.
Because I kind of get in the mindset of, I want to try to understand this. I think I'm missing something here. And I did eventually find that with Muso, where I was like, oh, I get it now. And so I'm hoping the same thing happens with Mystery Dungeon. Another one that I've heard people talk about highly is Shiren the Wanderer, I think it's called.
Yeah, that's the same. Yeah, it's basically like
haven't read that either, but
the original IP. You know,
so that was the originator of the Mystery Dungeon.
Yeah, and then it
formula.
just kind of gets into different licenses.
Yeah, it's a very simple game, but I don't have a problem with a simple game at all.
Right,
I got no problem with the game being simple. It's just not
clicking.
Yeah, something about it's just not clicking, man.
It's okay.
But like, if you love Pokemon, they got like a cute little village. That's cool. Like, there's things to like about it, but the main act of it, I don't find super exciting at the moment.
Brad, I can't believe you just carelessly shat all over it.
I'm sorry, Pokemon fans.
But today, what we're going to talk about on a HOTTAKE
Whoa.
is a pretty serious talk. There's something called the coronavirus going around.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
YouTube doesn't like that word.
It probably doesn't like this show either.
It's
What
supposed, to be adapting those policies.
Oh, okay.
You can't even say it. Like I'm not spreading I'm saying the virus is
Corona
happening.
beer.
It's a thing that is going on.
It picks up on it somehow.
Robots.
We are in 1984.
Yeah.
It's just happening. But what I wanted to talk about is kind of more of a theoretical HOTTAKE. And I think I want to use the coronavirus as a jumping off point to talk about something, because I've seen, people are talking about coronavirus anxiety, and then people are talking about like, oh, my school got shut down, or I'm home from work, or whatever it is. A lot of people are going through unexpected time where they can play games. But I was wondering, do these real world events, right, when there's kind of a crisis in the world or something going on, not necessarily at a personal level, but on a broad, like statewide or countrywide or worldwide level, do they affect your enthusiasm or the way that you play games at all? Like, is anxiety of something?
There's definitely it's weird because it's like, even though I'm pretty calm. I'm pretty, I'm like paying attention and like checking up on what's going on. There's definitely sort of this, like, I think we talked about it a little bit today. Like, there's sort of like this brain lockdown that starts happening to where like you're not really doing anything. Like, you're just like, I find myself getting into these sort of loops where like, because there's like a lot of communication and stuff. They're like, well, I'll check the comments over here, and I'll check the Twitter, and I'll check this, and I'll check that, and I've checked everything, but I'm still just doing this stuff because my brain, like, it just doesn't know what to do right now.
Right.
And so rather than, doing the next thing I actually really need to work on, or just starting a video game, and that's the thing. It's like I just need to push start right now. And then something else would like come up and like, oh, I think like you asked me like, oh, I need your help with the thumbnail,
right? And
then like, okay, I did that, and then I get looped into something with chat, and then I'm back into like my little brain loop, and like, okay, now let me start playing the game. Push start so I can get out of the loop. And so I feel like that kind of mode that sort of comes up from anxiety sometimes, like, a lot of people have been like, all these companies are going to see how much more productive their workers are when they work from home. We're like, no, because everyone's just, their brain's on lockdown. Like, it's not really going to work out that way.
Blood, I couldn't have said it better. I think that is a perfect articulation of what I go through, and is a good example of the times that we live in. I think you can actually expand this to the Kyle thing that we're going, because there's so much,
Yeah.
response and feedback to kind of sort through with that, and that's fascinating. But with the coronavirus, I find it I always feel like there's some new update
Right.
that I'm missing, right? And I think that is its own minor paranoia. But when you have access to information all the time, you have social media, you have legit news sites, you have 24/7 cable news, you've got YouTube. I feel like I'm going to refresh the page and get some new crucial piece of information, because it always feels that way, and it's marketed to feel that way, right? Like
Right.
everything is always at an 11, and that makes it hard. And I've noticed this, it's not just with video games, but it's even more difficult for me sometimes to just sit down and watch a movie,
Right.
or watch a TV show, because I'll be trying to get invested in the story, and all of a sudden I'm thinking oh, I'm missing something, I'm missing some key piece of news. And you said it perfectly at the beginning. You're not doing anything, right? There's no. Very rarely do I think are you actually going to go and do that and give into that impulse and get something worthwhile. What you should be doing is probably relaxing and taking care of yourself. But it affects my ability to enjoy entertainment sometimes at large, and I don't think that's healthy.
Right.
Brad, where are you at?
Yeah, kind of the same. I'll just get caught in a loop in my brain. I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
I need to push start. Yeah, I need to actually get up and do this. But I've been getting better at it.
When you say you're getting better at it, what are the steps that you're personally taking? I think that
It's just been
improve you?
just a slow thing over time of just being actually doing it. I think so. I've been going to the gym for a while, over the past couple of years, and that's
Sure.
kind of helped me get motivated to do something, motivation. I feel like that's just helped me, even in my headspace of let's do this now kind of thing. So
Definitely.
as weird as it sounds, it's training my brain, I guess.
And do you feel going to the gym and exercising, when you're there, do you think the physical effort of doing that stuff is kind of distracting enough that your head isn't in that space?
I mean, it definitely helps when you're working out. Yeah, totally. Mentally, for sure.
Brad, as somebody who's ramped up just reviewing games a lot, especially within the last year, how has that process been for you? I know this is a little bit different than the kind of opening question of HOTTAKE, but do you think that has changed kind of how you focus on games and eliminate distractions because of that increased workload with reviews?
Kind of. I feel like just doing it more and more and more will just help me do it better, I guess. I guess I'm just kind of getting small things I feel are just getting a little easier for me.
Sure.
Even if it's just a mental hurdle of getting over something, not being stuck on a paragraph for an hour or something like that. I'll just move on to the next thing. I'll come back to this later.
Gotcha.
Just little things like that, yeah.
So just the increased way of doing it has opened up opportunities. And
Yeah,
improvements.
because I'm the kind of person I feel to get better at something I have to do it a lot. I'm not a natural at anything. I feel like I have to do this and I'll get better at it, but it just takes me a while.
I feel like, trying to make this a broader point than just talking about us as people covering games, but kind of trying to extend it to the audience as well. Games, I feel like, have increasingly felt like more of a responsibility, and in a way that is often satisfying.
Yeah.
But there's the way that games are being designed a lot of times now, where it's they're repeatedly incentivizing you to check in, whether that's story DLC or daily challenges or events or whatever it is. Which I think when you're already feeling anxious about other stuff, and this might be a trivial point, but when you're already feeling anxious about other stuff, does kind of the responsibility of games make that even worse? Does this thing that is meant to relax you become its own source of stress?
So I look at it a different way kind of now, because video games are our job. I always in the back of my mind think about how I could relate this to work in some way.
I see.
That's how it's not so much of they keep adding stuff to this game, so I want to come back, or I feel like I have to come back. It's just the other way of always thinking about something with work with it.
That's really interesting. So no matter what you're doing, you're trying to turn it into a positive. That's
It's
cool.
it's not even that. It's just me thinking about it. I don't need to do this with everything, but my brain just thinks like that for a second, where I can be no, it's okay. I could just play this. It doesn't have to be for work.
Blood, you are definitely somebody that fascinatingly gets like locked into a game. And I definitely have these moments as well, but I feel like you experience it even more intensely. Like I think about your time in Sekiro, or especially at Death Stranding, where you're just kind of in it and you are doing everything and you are, going over it with a fine-tuned comb. Does that ever kind of turn into its own burden, where like you feel like that nature, like you kind of want to move on to other things, but you feel committed to this game?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's always that weirdness of the backlog, right? Where like even when you're playing something that you're enjoying, it's like, okay, well the next thing and then the thing after that, like there's just like you're saying, there's just so many games at any given time that you could be playing. So it's like I'm enjoying this right now, but I kind of want to see the other thing, and get through that. So and it particularly comes up at times like the awards, because we actually do want to sample a lot of different things. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's funny how even something like you were saying, like you feel like this responsibility, and like one of the games I could have brought today was like Doom 2016, and like but I streamed it.
Yeah.
I don't need to talk about it more. Everyone knows how I feel about this game already.
Right.
So why even like get back into that again right now? So other than the fact that people are talking about Eternal coming up. So
you talking about you streaming it and kind of getting some coverage out there. It's been really interesting seeing audience feedback on how we cover games, because it has kind of changed my outlook on it. Like obviously we heavily prioritize reviews, and I think that does well for us, and I think a lot of the audience really does appreciate that. But it's been interesting to see people, and I think this kind of really kicked off with the Ghost Recon Breakpoint impressions that Huber and Brandon did, where they're like, we kind of just want you guys to get at a table and talk about a game specifically outside of Frame Trap more often.
Yeah.
And seeing that feedback come up again and again, that has definitely changed my mindset. And so it was nice like sitting down with Brad, talking about PSO2 and Nioh 2. And it's not that I don't think a review for Nioh 2 would be worthwhile, but having that back and forth and having somebody ask you questions and maybe think of things that you couldn't get, but have it not be couched into a giant show like Frame Trap is really valuable.
I think the strength is like both. I like the idea of both.
Sure.
Like super official review, like super thought out, really digging in deep, but then also talking about it with you it's a completely different thing.
Right.
So I think there's value in both.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, and that's why I've never like dictated a preview style, because like the circumstances really
could change,
can make that different. Sometimes it's easier for you to just write something out than to try to schedule. Okay, I need to get some who actually has time to talk about this right now, and all
and
that.
It's like,
no, there's 2 days.
Did you get to actually capture the game or something like that?
Yeah. And well, that's the other thing. It's like sometimes it's easier to have a conversation because, sorry, they wouldn't let us record anything, so that's all we got is what we can say.
Oh man. I want to say something, but I couldn't. Let me just say in a very general sense, it is a bummer when you think you're going to get captured for something and your plans change. But I do think there's value in both, like you said. And there's some games like, let's just say Xenoblade Chronicles, for instance, or Xenoblade Chronicles 2 or Persona 5 or something, where it's not that I don't think we could sit down and have a good 20-minute conversation. But sometimes things are so dense that it's hard to do it. And I think the organization of writing really helps clean things up.
Yeah.
Yes. I think you can get like your full thoughts out in like 5 or 6 minutes in a review, which is nice. Like that's a much more time efficient way for someone to watch it. But there's also the longer, if we talk to each other, it's like 30 minutes. So you get like really in depth.
Like Death Stranding is a good example where we had conversations about it, but I think those conversations would have been a lot messier for me had I not been able to kind of distill my thoughts into writing first. Like that really cleaned things up. But I think another ultimate point here, much like the staying close to the mic thing, is let us know what you like, because it definitely feels like the landscape of what people are valuing out of game coverage is changing. And
we've been trying to do more of those conversations when they come up, but it's this whole weird mix of factors. It's like, what game is it? When does it come out? When do we get it? When does somebody else
get it?
that they can talk about it? It's like all of these different things. And then like, what else is shooting that day? It's like, oh, we've got 6 shoots that day. I guess we're not going to talk about this, So it is a weird little juggling act to figure out when those things actually work.
Right. And I also think there's a kind of inherent tension between maybe what you want personally and what the audience wants sometimes.
Yeah.
And finding that balance, I think, is important. So, like, a good example is our reactions do really well. Reactions are not my favorite thing to do, not because I don't have fun with you guys or I don't want them to be on YouTube, but sometimes I get frustrated where it's like, I'll have a reaction and it's like, 3 hours later, I'm like, man, if I could have just sat and thought about this for a few minutes,
sure, yeah,
I would have had a lot more meaningful things to say.
Sure.
Like, sometimes it's hard being on the spot and feeling like you're saying something worthwhile. And so I think for me, that can be frustrating about reactions where it's like, I don't think I'm giving all of the best stuff that I could say. For sure.
But I feel like when the review comes in for something like that, it addresses that other side of the coin.
Totally. That's a good point. Are we ready for some... sorry, Blood. Didn't mean to cut you
Oh,
off.
no. The other thing I was thinking is just that, like, sometimes one of the things that can be frustrating with reactions is, like, one person will, like, misinterpret something and say something.
Right.
And, like, 3 seconds later, it's like, oh, no, we understand that.
Right.
But, like, everyone will hold that first thought to the fire.
Yeah.
Like, why did you think that? Like, well,
Right.
because it was live.
Right. Like, you don't understand. Like, the benefit of being on the other side of the screen can be... it's different. And
yeah,
it's
well,
hard
and seeing the thing after you already know what it is, rather than we're trying to figure out what this is. Yeah.
But it is interesting, though, because there are times, honestly, where I listen to other gaming shows or something, and somebody says something like, no, that's not right. How could you not know? And so I think there's just something that's kind of human nature about it.
Yeah, definitely.
Where, the level of obviousness is different depending on the person. Are we ready for some emails? Our first email, what is the time code? I wish I really would have brought my iPad. It would have made things easier. First email is from Alexander. And I just got to say, there are several people within the Easy Alex community who are always out there, always. Like, Alexander is always, without a fail, the first person at the Q&A.
Oh. And
it sounds like I'm coming after him, but this is a sign of respect. I just appreciate that dedication. And we have several Fame Trap emailers who are always in there, always submitting. May not always get picked, but I see you and I appreciate you making the effort. That's really good. Our first email comes in from Alexander. He says, sharing video games with close ones. Hello, Bad and Panel. My dad doesn't play video games besides a couple of puzzles on his phone, and he prefers to spend his free time watching some TV series or sport events. Once or twice a year, I'm showing him full playthrough of some game I think he might like watching, but I have to pick short and story-focused games to keep him interested. Over the years, we've played games like Life is Strange, Until Dawn, Detroit Become Human, The Last of Us, The Evil Within 2, and Control, but I never dared showed him one of my favorite genres, an RPG. But this January, we watched The Witcher on Netflix. Bud, you gotta watch that.
I still do, yeah.
I want to talk to you about it, because you
We
know more about The Witcher than any of us.
We stopped at the DMV, and so I was able to start rereading that first book for a few minutes. But
rereading,
the dedication.
Just watch
man.
the show, man.
I love it.
Well, I need to read the second book.
It.
So
Anyway, but this January we watched The Witcher on Netflix, and I decided to use this opportunity to show him one of my favorite games, The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. Doing only critical path quests on the easiest difficulty took almost 30 hours, but despite my doubts, he enjoyed most of the journey.
Nice.
Novigrad wasn't his favorite, but he liked it overall. He even stayed for to replay some of it to get a different ending for Ciri, and then look through a couple of art books that I have. This isn't exactly a question, but if you have some similar stories about hesitating to show a game to someone important and then overcoming that initial doubt, I would love to hear them.
I didn't get all the way through it, but I had sort of a similarly surprising experience with my dad and Eternal Darkness. I was just I'll really sit down and show him a little bit of this game, and I don't know, he probably won't care too much, but then he's like, oh, keep going. I'm like, okay, cool.
Did you guys play the whole thing together?
No, we didn't play the whole thing, but a few hours of that.
I've never had an experience like that with any of my family or anything.
Brad, I want to give that to you.
Oh, I don't really need it though. Like growing up, my dad would like see me playing something like, oh, is this a new Zelda or something like that? But like, yeah, and he goes, oh, cool, and he'd like watch for like a couple minutes, but that's about it.
Okay, so I would like bring my Sega Nomad to all over the place and like my Game Boy and stuff to like family events because I was a nerd and my family would always say the same thing. Across both sets of parents, they would always say the same thing. And it ended up driving me crazy because it happened for years. Whatever game I was playing, they would just be like, are you winning?
Oh,
Are you
no.
winning? Are you winning?
Are you winning?
It's like, well, there's more to it than that.
Yeah.
They would always say that.
But the thing about it is, Ben, is it was never like a problem for me. I never felt the need to really show it off because I had so many friends growing up that played video games.
Must be nice.
So it was very nice. So I always had someone to talk to about video games. Like I grew up with Mike.
Yeah.
So obviously I had that there. My brother would check out what I'm playing and every now and he would play something with me. So I was pretty chill most of the time.
Nice. Something that I was blown away by is, and I feel like I've told this before, but my wife, Abby, no one hates horror more than her, which is why it's so
Maybe
much...
Mike's wife.
Oh, yeah, Beth doesn't like horror. She doesn't like horror at all, and that's why it's so much fun to consume horror stuff with her. And maybe this is just... Maybe something's wrong with me, but I feel like having somebody with you who is genuinely terrified like increases your enjoyment so much.
Sure, yeah, it's fun.
Really does.
It's fun.
Because then you both laugh about it and everything's great. But anyway, she hates horror. One of our most cherished playthroughs was The Evil Within 2.
Oh.
Huh.
And I still don't fully understand it, but the way when I was like, why this one? Because we've tried other things, like we played... She stuck around for most of Silent Hill 3. She hasn't really clicked with any of the Resident Evils, but there was something about Evil Within 2. She was like, I really like picking up the green goo, and I like the progression, and I felt like I was contributing because it was kind of more open-ended, and I could help you find stuff, and so it felt like a participatory thing. And so I thought that was really fascinating. Our next email comes in from Morgan. Hopefully I'm not rereading a Morgan email like I have done before. Dear Ben Sama, I'm glad to hear that the PS5 will be backwards compatible.
Wow, your weeb card will never get taken from you again.
That's what he said.
I know.
It's in the email.
I know.
I'm disrespecting the email.
It's tattooed on you now.
Dear Ben Sama, I'm glad to hear that the PS5 will be backwards compatible, but I would really like to see Sony and others make an investment into full catalog access. You and the panel were talking about preservation, and it makes me wonder about everything that will be lost over the years, especially as antique hardware deteriorates. What about the PSP and Vita libraries that we could see a second life on PS5? Is classical game preservation from console makers a pipe dream because there is not enough money to be made? I also recognize that more beloved games are generally cared for and periodically remade, but I want to focus on libraries as a whole. Does the panel envision companies like Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft making such an investment, or should fans begin preparing for older media to fade over time?
I feel like that's like a licensing nightmare on a lot of that stuff.
That is
Crisis
definitely...
Core, Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, obviously, I would love to have, like, hey, you have access to the whole GameCube library or something like that. That'd be awesome. I just don't think it's really feasible.
Yeah.
Some of those companies don't even exist anymore, so that's the thing. It's like, it's their game, so, you know.
Yeah.
I do feel like technology dictates a lot of it, and this is not strictly game preservation. I don't want to make that case, but I do feel like this has been an encouraging generation for things being revisited.
Yeah.
And I think a huge reason for that is like, you know, a big marketing thing for PS Now, right, is experience all of these different PlayStation kind of games from different generations.
Yeah. The Xbox One backward compatibility.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like there was some pitch behind it, but we're also at a point where we can easily do that via digital access. I also think you're seeing that with the Switch, where the form factor of the Switch is making things enticing to consumers in a way that maybe it wouldn't quite be if they couldn't take it on the go with them. So you're getting all of these collections on Switch, which is really neat. So I do think it has been encouraging, and we seem to be in a nostalgia-driven market right now. So I do think going into the next generation, I'm optimistic that we'll get more of these trips back.
Yeah, I think it'll get better about being able to access old games, but I don't think it'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever will, but I
That
think it'll
Blade
get better.
Runner announcement this week.
Yeah.
What?
Like
That
the Blade Runner
announcement.
Right. Well, there's
That
also
out
that
of nowhere.
Panzer Dragoon VR game that is taking you through different eras of Panzer Dragoon, and then we just got a Space Channel 5 VR game. And so it's like weird things that you didn't necessarily expect. Go Sega.
Go Sega.
Next email, our last email, comes in from Alex, who is quarantined in Athens.
Oh.
Hi, Allies. I live in China, and as you know, the country is under a bit of a lockdown, with my city under a sort of self-imposed quarantine. Lots of businesses, restaurants, and shops are all closed. This sounds far worse than it is, as I have tons of time on my hands to play video games, namely Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh.
Holy crap, I didn't realize how good this game is. I haven't played an Assassin's Creed game since the second, and I've been blindsided by how much fun I'm having. It's just such a great RPG, led by an amazing protagonist. I chose Cassandra. Good choice. And I even have time to complete all the usually annoying question marks. So my question to the panel is, have you had an experience of the right game at the right time in the right place, and what was it?
Yeah. Assassin's Creed Origins, when it came out, I played it over just like on our Christmas break or whatever, man, and I was just feeling it at the time.
Yeah.
Because I think I had been burnt out on Assassin's Creed, so I like came back after a little bit or whatever, and I just felt like rejuvenated almost.
My boss at Video Games Etc., a mom and pop shop in Iowa. I think there might be a store in Illinois as well. I worked there, and my boss, Joe. Shout out to Joe.
Joe Baker.
Super cool guy, way into heavy metal,
Nice.
way into bad horror movies, and was super passionate about Yakuza.
Really?
Oh, nice.
He beat the drum for Yakuza so hard. And I really think he was a driving force to get me into it. And the first game I played in the series was Yakuza 3, and I loved it. So had I not done that job and worked with that guy, probably wouldn't have been into it. Also, Mario Strikers Charged, coworker introduced me to that, and that was pretty cool. So, yeah.
The thing that immediately came to mind was when I was between jobs, between G4 and GT, Dragon Quest 8.
Oh,
my
God.
Just having that time.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, I get up. I've looked at all the job listings there are to look at. I've done everything I need to do to be responsible with my life. I guess I'll just play more Dragon Quest 8.
Nice.
Yeah, dude, I did that. I think I was first year of college or something like that, like after high school.
Yeah.
My JRPG summer, dude. I did Final Fantasy 12 and Dragon Quest 8 back to back.
Two behemoths.
And it felt good knocking those
Nice.
games out.
Very interconnected games because the Dragon Quest 8 had the demo for Final Fantasy 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try to make it a point to play through a big one during Christmas break. I feel like I don't always succeed, but I remember like playing through all of Valkyria Chronicles 4 during a Christmas break, and that just felt so good.
Yeah.
It's nice when you just have that time to be like, I'm going to take on a meaty one.
Where you don't have like a project looming over your head or
Yeah.
I mean, I
something.
probably had a project looming over my
okay.
head,
Never
but
mind.
still.
Yeah, you always have something to review.
It was nice. But that is going to do it for Frame Trap. I was worried because we had so many games to talk about that it was going to be bloated, but we're at 2:12.
We did it, baby.
I
Yeah.
don't know what happened, and it felt like the conversations were substantial. Let us know.
Yeah, I think so.
Cut the fluff.
Cut the fluff. Efficiency, that's what Easy Allies is all about. If you would like to send in an email askeasyallies@gmail.com. One more time, the email address is askeasyallies@gmail.com. It feels good to be back here. It feels good talking with such wonderful panelists like Daniel Bloodworth and Bradley Ellis. Thanks for being on the show. And thank you, of course, until next time.